Blow him away.
The guys will be back Tuesday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2.
Isn't this a sports show?
Papa, tell me about the radio days. Oh, well, there were many struggles and many difficulties.
Almost entirely.
I remember hearing this one radio show where they did nothing but visual gags on an audio medium. The host did a whole segment with his nose taped to his forehead.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Papa, whatever happened to him? Son, I don't think you're ready for that story. All I can tell you is don't do cocaine. Too late, Papa! I learned it from watching you!
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
You did this to me, Papa! I just wanted to be like you, Papa!
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We got a lot to sort through here on tonight's edition of Almost Entirely Sports. We've got a little bit of fun news in the baseball realm. We've got some silly things going on in the National Basketball Association. On Friday, I was out at the Big Slick press conference, kicking off what was a great weekend benefiting Children's Mercy Hospital this weekend. I've got some highlights and some thoughts from all of that. Rudy's hockey team beat one of my top two hockey teams. My hockey allegiances I don't hold too tightly to, and it's all just a game. That's such an important thing to remember because they played. I can't remember what happened. It's not important.
That was one, it was just only. Here's what I'll say about hockey. Is it America's sport? Of course not. Football reigns supreme. Basketball super popular. I'm not going to sit here and say hockey's my favorite sport. I don't know if there's a more pure, championship winning sport. Because
Wow.
it's the captain gets to carry the trophy, right? You don't get that in the other sports where there's almost a high school tournament, college still kind of feel to it where you're like, man, this is kind of awesome. And the trophy always gets broken.
It might be the best team sport measuring by amount of teaminess.
Yeah.
Is that the take? I think that might be true. I like that.
Because in hockey, it's all about the boys. Everything, you listen. If you listen to the Avs players, and this is not anything unique for the Avs. Every team does this. Every one of them at some point is just I'm just so happy I get to celebrate with the boys. Can't wait to take that picture with the boys.
You gotta get together with the boys. That's really important. So I don't know. Do you want to? There's a water bottle back there, Rudy. I don't know if you want to just dent it really hard in celebration.
And that's the other great thing, man. It is the one, again, because you actually allow players to just, go wild with it as they're, just skating around an ice rink. The trophy always gets, dented or dropped. It is never in mint condition after the first night. And name another trophy that everybody, which, hey, maybe over the last few years we don't want to be sharing quite as much, but name another trophy that allows you just to chug out of it. Right?
No, it's huge.
It's the perfect team. It is. Here's what I will say about the Stanley Cup. It is definitely the best trophy in all of sports.
I think so. I think it is.
The Super Bowl,
it's huge.
Yeah.
You can drink out of it.
The Super Bowl trophy certainly comes with more honor, I guess, long-term wise, right? Because if you're Patrick Mahomes,
But I think that's just about whatever. That's about whatever sport you care about the most, really.
Well,
I mean, I think your point still stands.
Yeah, and I would say, again, part of that just most of America cares about football more, right? But there's not a better just trophy.
No,
right?
I 100% agree.
The Super
no
Bowl
pushback.
might win more, but the Stanley Cup just is cooler.
The aesthetically best trophy in professional sports has to be the Stanley Cup. What's the worst?
We do. Well, I would say, obviously, Super Bowl's iconic.
I've got some hot takes here.
NBA's pretty great. MLS is well made. And I think baseball just has a pile of metal, just a little hunk of metal. So I think just by, that definition, it's the worst.
So here's the thing.
But it is kind of cool with all the little flags.
Rob Manfred notwithstanding, which is as all conversation should begin, Rob Manfred notwithstanding, I think the World Series trophy might be the coolest to look at, but I think it is objectively the worst to like party with. You know,
Yeah.
You can't be breaking off flags.
No.
I want a trophy I can dent. I wish the football.
Cup.
I wish the football on the Lombardi Trophy could be separated from the base, maybe with some heavy magnets or some or a little lock mechanism.
Yeah.
Because I think Rob Gronkowski should have been legally allowed to pull the football off the top of the Lombardi Trophy and then spike it, dent it, scuff it. Who cares? It's about celebrating your sport. You know what? Let the basketball come off the top of the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
Yeah, why not?
Somebody should dunk it.
The one
You
thing,
win. Steph Curry should. All right, hold on. Warriors win the title. That's done, right? They win the title, but you don't vote on most valuable player. You vote on the order in which players are allowed to shoot the top of the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Whoever makes it first is the MVP. So Steph would have gotten the first shot, but he's probably never. Now here's another question: do you practice? Because it's way smaller than a basketball. It's heavier than a basketball. So if you're Steph, between
like
game
Steph
5
are
and
practicing.
6, I think Steph is shooting a medicine ball for reps there. But if he misses it, then Andrew Wiggins gets a shot. All of a sudden, we're down to a point where Kevon Looney is able to take a three from the top of the key. Jonathan Kuminga from half court. Or maybe you start from farther away if you're a worse player. I don't know. We'll work all that out. But I want more trophies to get damaged, and I want that to be a part of the point of more trophies. So that I feel perfect about.
The one thing, and I do understand, this does not bother me at all that other leagues do this, where the first people that are congratulated are the owners generally.
But hockey gets away from it.
Yeah, which again doesn't like bother me. Like they do own the team. They are the money I get. But like, let's be honest.
Your jersey doesn't say Kroenke.
The owner is literally doing the least. They are just the cash, right? They are the investor. The players and then the coaches and the general manager, even like right, they're the ones actually doing all this work. I would like.
They're
to
the ones
see,
out there with broken bones in their legs.
I would like to see more players, and essentially just it can be the team captains, right? Them being the first ones to receive the award.
The trips around the ice are so good. This is part of the fun. They were talking about this on Le Batard, so I like to tell you when I'm stealing bits by accident, just because my brain's seeped in too far. It's like lead poisoning. They're talking about this on Le Batard. Are you self-conscious about being the last player with the trophy? You have been told you're the least important of the players. What happens? Hold on. Maybe you think I don't want to be the equipment manager hoisting it up over my head, not looking nearly as athletic as all of these literal space aliens around me playing this game. But do you have any idea how cool it must be to be the equipment manager of a hockey team that just won the Stanley Cup and you are on the ice holding the Stanley Cup over your head?
Yeah.
That
and you
feeling.
You get to kiss it?
You get to just plant a big fat smoocher on there?
You get to kiss a cup that Nathan McKinnon, that Cale Makar, who's being called the greatest defenseman since Bobby Orr, right? The Wayne Gretzky defenseman. You got to kiss the same cup that man kissed. Well, kid, because he's 23, but still.
Legally a man.
Legally a man. Hockey terms a kid. I did like...
whole city has COVID.
I did love, I think it was like... Because this, and honestly, this reminded me so much of when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, where they asked Eric Johnson, like, NHL is such a copycat league, like, what are teams going to do to copy you? And he just kind of laughed. Get a Cale Makar, I guess? Just because it just reminded me so much of the Chiefs. Everybody's like, well, now everybody's just going to emulate what the Chiefs do.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you do that?
Just
get
Patrick Mahomes.
I guess.
I guess that seems pretty easy.
I do enjoy that part. I really enjoyed because it very much reminded me just of the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. Of just like, oh yeah. It's just you can't really replicate greatness unless you have great players, right? Like you have to have generational type players, like to be able to do this stuff.
Winning without that is remarkably impressive.
Yeah,
most teams don't.
No.
I do think, since we're on the hockey here, and we will talk about Vinnie Pasquantino some. Obviously, there's baseball still happening, but he's not playing in it, so you shouldn't care about that game.
More sports quickly though, need to follow like hockey's like
I agree.
the fandom of it.
Yes, 100%.
There is a purity to it.
No, I'm going to stick with the hockey.
Teams don't
you know
have.
what? I promise you, I'm going to skate back around in a little circle here, but I'll give you the layout of the rest of the show real quick. We will talk about Vinnie Pasquantino getting the call up, Carlos Santana being traded again. The Royals are playing, but neither of those guys are playing in it, and so I don't have
Tomorrow will be fun.
any concern with what's happening, right now. But looking into the future a little bit, we'll also have shows Wednesday and Thursday this week that will have our, some of our favorite Royals guests on to talk more about all this because the Royals play early on Wednesday and no game Thursday, I believe. So we'll get more in the weeds on kind of what it means for the team right now. But I do want to talk about Pasquantino getting called up and Santana getting traded to the Mariners. We will have Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, goodness, as we do every Monday. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I like talking to Matt, and so there's probably some Chiefs things here or there.
So much Chiefs news.
So many. Where does he think? Does he think Durant's going to get traded or not? Would the Chiefs want Kevin Durant? Where would he play?
I mean, the receiver room looks deeper than last year, but they're still not like the so-called number one. And I take a flyer on Kevin Durant.
He'd be terrifying coming out on the edge.
Think Willie Cauley-Stein wants to go back to his football days?
I feel like that size might help.
I mean, the Chiefs are just loving their Kentucky players right now.
That's true. That's true. They're on a tear.
Go get another one.
I like that a lot. So we'll talk to Matt at 8, and then Aaron Ladd of KSHB 41 will join us at 9, and we'll talk about a few other things that I do want to talk about, some of the NBA stuff. Draymond Green in the podcast space. I'm really conflicted about some things there. I think that'll be a good topic of conversation. But so we'll sift through some of that, and then again, I've got a couple pieces of audio from Big Slick this week. So that's sort of the layout of the next few hours. But since we are firmly here with our feet on skates on ice in Hockey Town, first of all, Rudy, even though it robbed me and my beloved Tampa Bay Lightning and all of us diehard hockey fans, it did rob us of seeing a three-peat.
It did.
That, I have not slept since the game ended. I did forget about it and miss the first period.
It happens.
You love it. You love something so much, sometimes you just black out and forget about it. But I am very glad that you were able to witness yet another championship here in your lifetime. I imagine that you were hopefully watching it on like your dad's cable, and not trying to like get it through a satellite your phone or something.
I was watching it on ABC, which again, like it was just, I for the longest part of my life, it seemed like I didn't watch any team win. And I've been pretty fortunate over the last 5-ish years to where like. Even though the Nuggets haven't won anything, back-to-back MVP on their team, right? Very good. Chiefs have been great. It's fun, and I'm not gonna pretend like the Avs are anywhere near my top in terms of favorite teams.
Sure,
I watch a decent amount of Avs games, but if the Chiefs are also playing, that takes priority, right?
Sure.
If Kentucky's playing, that takes priority. If the Nuggets are playing, that takes priority, and that which happens a decent amount. Be surprised how often that both the Nuggets and the Avalanche are playing. And when it happens, I'm watching the Nuggets generally. I like the sport better. Hockey is a lot of fun to watch, though, and it's just and this team especially is a lot of fun to watch because and the Avs have largely been a pretty good team while I've watched them. But they were really, really bad 5 years ago.
Well, so here's the thing that I think is
horrendously bad.
You're going to have to check my facts on this, but two things that really get me. One is you mentioned that hockey is fun. You said something that hockey is just fun to watch.
Playoff hockey might be the best of it's NCAA tournament probably number one, and then playoff hockey too.
I think it's a good comparison. I wish that we cared about the hockey playoffs like we care about March Madness on some level. It's a blast.
Had a hockey team. The people in this town would love it.
I agree completely. Hockey is a very welcoming sport in that way. That's why my theory about, it should be the thing we show aliens whenever they get here. I think the entry point for hockey and the amount that you can enjoy it as a new fan makes it a good sport for growing. And then, I don't know, hopefully maybe being on ESPN will grow up more. I don't know. To the Avs point.
The salary cap is going up for the first time in 5 years by,
that's
I think,
good.
Almost $10 million maybe. So
I hope it keeps growing.
I assume the ESPN money is in decent part because of that.
I would love to keep watching the Coyotes be terrible and the Lightning be good,
Hey, Darcy Kemper came from Phoenix, so it's basically a Coyotes title.
That's basically a title for the greater Phoenix area. Here's my thing on the Avs that I think I heard correctly, and I think everybody can find appreciation in this in the sports scene, is that they were really bad 5 years ago, and a lot of the guys that just held a Stanley Cup over their head this weekend were there during that stretch. I don't know how much of that overlap was, but that was one of the things I was seeing that I wanted to ask you about. That to have guys be on some bad teams still be playing a role on championship teams a handful of years later is quintessential sports story stuff.
Yeah, so to kind of like sum it up, the Avs, like before they were really bad, were a solid team. It had some good young players. They were a fine team. And then all of a sudden you had like Ryan O'Reilly, who wanted out one of their better players. He's now in St. Louis. Matt Duchene, who's one of their top young players coming up. He went out. A bunch of players all of a sudden decided they wanted out. A couple of them decided they're just not going to play. About a month before training camp started, Patrick Waugh, who was their head coach at the time, just so people know, Joe Sakic and Patrick Waugh are the two best players in Avalanche history. Joe Sakic is the current general manager, and for a while, Patrick Waugh was the head coach. So you had the two best players in franchise history as the GM and the head coach. About a month before the season started, he quits. He's just like, I'm done. I'm good. And so the Avs very much last second.
And they were like, hey, sir, why would you do this to me?
With their best players saying, we're not going to play, we want to be traded. And they bring in Jared Bednar, who is a minor league coach.
This is another one. Yes, he is coached at like every level of hockey.
Who is a very different type of personality in the sense that, like, he is so, like, when you think of coaches, I think especially football and hockey coaches, you think of yelling and yelling and screaming and you think of Bruce Arians just cursing left and right. And they say Jared Bednar yells like once a year, and he just like does not like saying bad words. It's just like, which is just so anti what a coach,
of course,
what you believe a coach to be. So they say when he does yell, they're like legitimately scared because it's like we just never hear it.
What have we done to him?
So it's like when he does yell, it's like, oh crap,
we deserve this. They also made a point coming back from one of the breaks late in the game that he was talking with and drawing on the clipboard like the entirety of that commercial break, which I would not have even noticed. But they made a point on the broadcast to say that does not happen very often.
Broadcast was very good. Like
broadcast was great,
and for which I just assumed they had. They obviously like Steve Levy and Sean McDonough have done plenty. Right, they've been doing that for a long time. I assumed a lot of the other guys had been doing TV for a while for various networks, and they're like, oh yeah, especially their pre-game, post-game intermission host, first year ever doing TV. It's like, oh,
didn't know that.
These guys are pretty good for their first year doing TV.
Yeah.
So shouts out to the broadcast. But yeah, so the team is 5 years ago the lowest point total in NHL. They have the worst record. Jared Bednar even said he didn't think he was coming back because he just had the worst. He was essentially the interim coach for a year. Wasn't even like fully guaranteed that he would be that long term. They just needed somebody to like kind of right the ship. He gets brought back, all of a sudden they make the playoffs. And like they had like that team was terrible. And then, but they Nathan McKinnon was on that team. Gabriel Landeskog was on that team. They had some very young, talented players. Like McKinnon was, I think, the third overall pick. So like they had guys who were looking like they potential, like these guys could be stars.
Yeah.
Joe Sakic, who's essentially, the Avs version of John Elway, except good at his job, pulled off a couple of basically Boston Nets trades to where he sent a bunch of his good players to good teams for first-round picks. Those teams ended up imploding, and so these first-round picks that when trading their good players to other good teams turned into third and fourth overall picks. So as the Avs are making the playoffs, they get the fourth overall pick from, I forget, I think it was a Canadian team, I forget who. That fourth overall pick turns into Cale Makar, who is 23. He is the only, I think, I can't remember all of it, but basically he's the only player in NHL history to have like won, I think, a youth league title, a college World Series, rookie
no way
of
it's
the
called
year.
a World Series, right?
Wow. Final Four, Frozen Four.
Frozen Four. I knew there was a name for it.
Yes.
I just couldn't be World Series.
Rookie of the year, defenseman of the year, and the Calder Cup or the whatever they call the MVP of the postseason. He's won it all. He's 23. Won everything.
That's I guess that is how you start getting compared to Bobby Orr.
Yeah. That's
is you win everything forever.
By the time you're like 23. And so it's just it was kind of a slow build, and every year they got a little bit better, and then last year was kind of the first disappointing year where it was like this team should go to the Stanley Cup Finals, very least the Western Conference Finals, and they lose in the second round. Nathan McKinnon was pissed. The whole team was mad. They you hear all the time like put the bad things behind you. Mm-hmm. Literally every other game they were talking about their loss throughout the year to the Golden Knights in the second round. They were just like, you could tell it just made them mad like the whole year. And they had one of the most historic years in NHL history. They tied for the most wins over the course of a history. think they had the second most come from behind wins in NHL history. I mean, they had one of the and the what probably I don't know all the numbers. Arguably the most dominant postseason ever. They finished plus 30 in goal differential. Second place was at plus 6.
It just in the postseason.
Like, just in the postseason. Like it was
plus 30 in the postseason is bleeping bonkers.
They're such a fun team to watch too. And again, like to use the kind of the Chiefs comparison, they're just so fast.
Yeah.
And like that, what made the Chiefs so much fun and has made them so much fun is, you know, a lot of it is obviously deep passes to Tyreek Hill. The big plays, right? Mahomes running around for his life, you know, and then finding some guy in the back of the end zone. The Avs are very much like that. Everybody on that team is fast. They have they have a handful of guys, especially their core guys, like their entire front line was on that 48-point season, right? Like the worst team in hockey, and their entire front line was from that team. Like you just, I don't think you see that very often, right? You might see some guys hang around, like Eric Johnson at this point is probably their 4th or 5th best defenseman. He was on that team for a while. He was their best defenseman. He's just, he's played in the league for like 14 years now, right? Which he even mentioned, none of us knew this, he almost retired this offseason. He came this close, he said, to hanging it all up. And now he's won a title after being in Colorado for 12 years. It's a lot of fun.
And I think that, again,
Avs are now 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals. Never lost. Every time they get there, they win.
I don't know about all that. But I think that, I hope that people who might not give a solitary bleep about the Colorado Avalanche or the NHL in general, I think that the story of that team is so compelling that maybe it doesn't make you care about the Colorado Avalanche, but it gives you a path to what it would feel like to have a team here. I think that's a great narrative side of where that comes from. I love the narratives within all of sports. If you wanted to talk about some of the intricacies within the actual game, watching the third period last night where the Lightning desperately needed a goal to keep their season going, and they got by the end, once they pulled the goalie, I think it changed a little bit. I'm sure it changed some. But with 5 minutes left in the period, the Lightning had 3 shots on goal. Yeah. Maybe it might have been 2 shots on goal, and legitimately 15 minutes into the period.
And in those last 5 minutes, it changed real fast just because there's the desperation of we have 5 minutes to get a goal. And then there was the play where I think it might have been Kucherov, might have been Stamkos, drills a puck at goal, hits Landeskog's skate and knocks the blade off. And there's that
the blade off.
There's that scene of Nathan McKinnon just
dragging a corpse. It was like watching Saving Private Ryan.
He is just dragging him across, just trying to get him close enough to the side to where they can sub somebody out on for him. It was, and this happened.
And it could have been too many men. I was paying attention.
The guy who came on for Landeskog, I think Landeskog was close enough.
They talked about it. They talked about it.
And also,
they discussed it.
The too many men on the ice, they're right.
They discussed it on the broadcast.
John Cooper of the Lightning even admitted to it. It's obviously there's a gray area there sure. Because you can be with
because everyone's constantly coming on and off the ice.
So
the
fast.
Sport is crazy. You should care about it a little more.
What's also crazy is I think people don't fully assume just how hard the sport is to play because you'll see people when they talk about this guy's been out there for 90 seconds.
Yes.
Wait, that doesn't seem like long. It's just no. Once you've crossed that especially that 90-second threshold, you are dead. You are exhausted.
Go skate for 1 minute as hard as you can, and then go stand in traffic.
Going back and
go
forth.
Stand in traffic and get hit by a pickup truck, and tell me how you feel. You've played a minute of hockey.
It is.
Please legally hold on, Rudy. Sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Almost Entirely Sports recommends that you do not go stand in traffic. Be safe on and off the motorways. But that's what it would feel like.
It is a wild sport.
Skate up and down the ice for a minute while your two friends who are better at skating than you have foam baseball bats just thwumping. It would look like a Jameis Winston workout, Just
that might. Oh man,
just cartoon workout equipment on ice for some reason.
We're about to find out Jameis Winston listens to the show because if we see this video in the next week, Jameis Winston 100% listens to the show.
Please let Jameis Winston keep doing silly workouts that he posts on the internet.
So good.
He's in better shape than I am.
I'm not questioning a thing. Jameis Winston's a king.
Since Jameis Winston is clearly a listener of this show, I want him to know that this is not me making fun of his incredible workout techniques. I just want to see more. I don't want to watch The Biggest Loser or whatever. Is that still on? There's no way that's still on TV.
Don't think so.
That can't still be on TV. That show had to be problematic, right?
Yeah.
Survivor and
Survivor's
Amazing
not
Race.
problematic,
I think Survivor might have some problematic undertones, but I think anyway. I don't need that in my life. I don't want to watch Jazzercise. I'm not trying to buy a shake weight. I almost did the shake weight thing and remembered we're on live video, and that would have been a gift that would have followed me forever. So take that, video watchers. I didn't give you the good stuff.
I actually wouldn't mind Jazzercise and coming back. That was pretty cool.
I want Jamercise.
Jamercise.
Boom.
I'm down with that.
Just got a wobbly bench press. Just going to town.
Kansas City needs a hockey team. Now, the one good thing about Kansas City not having a hockey team, I almost said soccer team.
You did say soccer team.
I said soccer team once, almost said it twice. We do have a soccer team. We have 2 soccer teams.
I would argue we might have 4. We definitely have 3.
Because we have Sporting KC 2 and KC Current 2.
Oh, I was giving the Comets their love.
And we have the Comets. That's
5. Soccer capital of America, some are saying.
Some would say.
World Cup 2026.
Hell yeah.
We discussed that?
I think so.
Let's get the Hockey World Cup next.
Oh, man. There is a, it's the, obviously you have the Olympics, but then they have the,
Bring the Olympics to
what
Kansas
the
City.
heck do they call it? They do have like an actual, it's a youth general thing, but like
We'll just call it the U.S. Open Cup because that feels like that covers like 4 sports.
But like, USA plays in and all the countries play in it. They compete for, I forget exactly what it's called. Essentially the World Cup of Hockey. You just have, I think, younger players playing it. Anyways, the one good thing about Kansas City not having a hockey team is I don't have to make that decision on whether or not I switch allegiances because I don't think I can. I think I'm just an Avs and Nuggets guy.
I'm trying to
NHL or NBA. I think I'm just kind of stuck with those teams. And I say stuck as in like I root for pretty dang good teams.
Yeah, these are teams. I don't know why philosophically I've done this. Also, I don't know if you just turned the camera to yourself just then. Makes me think it was an accident. Yeah, I usually would just let it go, but you were about to go in like to pick out a booger or something. I was like, I don't need.
No, I was just like wiping the face down.
Yeah, sure. No, you were
off into my own little world.
You were your own little world. What you call your left nostril. You were up in your own little world. That's what I was confused about. You were wiping your face, but you were 2 knuckles deep up your nose hole. I almost said nostril again. I wanted to change it. Yeah, you were all the way up there, man. I, as a life philosophy, have started to realize, I don't know where this even came from, but it's been recurring enough now that it's just true that I occasionally think back to just like stuff I was worried about when I was like, my signposts are like 13, 16, 18, that kind of range. And I think about the things I was worried about, genuinely worried about, like just the stuff that plagues you at age 13, 16, and 18. And all of it was so remarkably stupid. It's like, I could have just been like a carefree 16-year-old and just had a much less anxious time with all of that.
Because now we have like real things to worry about.
Yeah, but also I think some realization that there is so little we can do.
Oh yeah.
There's so little that we can. I hate.
Which for some people causes even more anxiety.
Right. No, that also is not helpful. And I understand. I don't mean to add that to anybody else's plate in the anxiety department. But like, today there was some story, not that we have to go overseas to find horrible things happening, but I saw today that there was some Russian bombing that I think it was a I don't even remember. It was like a hotel or a movie theater, something else, and there were 1,000 Ukrainians in there. Just a war crime of horrifying proportions. And it's been one on top of a million others. How did we get here? I've literally already forgotten. But you see stuff like that, and sometimes I just stare at that, and that's my next like half hour is just like, so what do I do? I feel horrible about the fact this is happening.
Well, there's this story about I think the Missouri family went down to Florida and their kid fell off a ride, stuff like that. Like recently, you're right, stuff like that. Yeah, and I
don't mean to put anybody on blast, but like every local newspaper outlet across the country will tweet out some of the national news. Yeah, that's just like. Here, this was another one that actually happened. Sorry for like distressing topics showing up here. I don't know where this is just how my brain works sometimes. I'm not bragging. I'm complaining. But it was like, mother sets fire to house, stabs 4 of 7 children. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to do with any of that stuff. Anyway, that's a much more extreme version of the very silly things that we worried about when we were 13 and 15 and 16 or whatever. Here, I remembered how we got to here. Boy, this got so dark for something that could have been such an easy throwaway. But I've just been thinking about more of the general topics of things that used to make me anxious versus things that stress me out now. And realize that as a child, Those were silly things to worry about. So now there are probably some things that are analogous to that, not war crimes and murders, but like, you know, should I button? I had a second button come unbuttoned on my shirt here at some point before the show started. Like, oh, should I button this up and try to, keep some of this majesty under here concealed, or should Twitch get to see my entire chest? And it was like, you know what? My answer to that does not matter. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I can just let that go. That's something that how much chest hair my shirt was showing, or at this point, how much skin my V-neck was showing as a 13-year-old, and if that was gonna seem like I was doing too much as a 13-year-old or whatever, dumb thing to worry about.
Should I have to root for the Kansas City hockey team?
This is where it started.
Nope. Oh, another great thing about
that is just to be clear, that is where the whole train of thought started for me, which is that I at some point had thought, well, if Kansas City gets an NBA team, am I going to be like a Suns fan first and then also rooting for the Kansas City team? Or what if can I split my lead? Hey, man. Hey, moron. Wait 15 years. If there's a team here in 15 years, you can figure it out when you're 40-some years old. You can figure that out as a 40-year-old man. Right now, there's not a team here. Live your life.
One more fun fact about
Sorry for bringing so many horrible things into this segment, and I don't just mean Rudy celebrating the Stanley Cup.
One more fun thing about the Avs playoff run. It resulted in them beating the St. Louis Blues, causing St. Louis misery with their captain, Ryan Riley, who demanded to be traded out from the Avs the year before. That led to their terrible year. So suck it, St. Louis. You can have your never won anything captain.
That was vitriolic.
Made me happy.
I get it. That's a pretty good.
I like beating St. Louis.
No, like you get a little.
Beating the Blues makes me happy.
Look, you got to find things that make you happy in this world, and don't worry so much about the little dumb things that stress you out. There are plenty of big stressful things that you probably can't do much about. Do some, I don't mean like local or even like domestic politics. Just like Russia-Ukraine thing feels like it's pretty high on the list. You can like donate some money, but the stories, and it's like I'm not in Top Gun Maverick 2.
Or like, will the Chiefs re-sign Orlando Brown Jr.?
I can't do anything about that.
All these things are of equal weight.
Personally, I would probably disagree, but that's something you were willing to say, Rudy, and so I, would hate to tell you that you're wrong. Well, I mean, if you think we don't talk enough sports, we just gave you like 30 minutes of hockey talk, and
a lot of hockey,
and then like 2 minutes of existential dread. So I think that's a pretty good ratio for us.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 feed.
Did you
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I'll stand by that. Planet is flat.
If it's not flat, why are we falling off?
It's flat in a circular motion.
What?
That makes no sense. Yeah.
What does that mean? Are we on a record player right now? Can we stop it?
That's what the Earth is. It's a record player.
What's the record? But the record's on a player in that instance, though. What's the record player? If the world
The
is
record player is the universe. And we're just on the universe is our record player.
That's either the most beautiful or the stupidest piece of bleep I've literally ever heard.
I think it's a little bit of both, and that's what makes it glorious.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Speaking of nice flat Earth, I thought we were going to spend a larger portion of the show tonight talking about Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. I really did. And then...
But the Avs had to start their legacy by killing a dynasty.
That's right.
Another thing that Cale Makar said was just adds to Cale Makar's greatness.
That's really great. I've got no counterpoint to that at all.
God, hockey's so pure, man.
Do you guys have Evander Kane, or is that somebody else?
No. We beat Evander Kane in the Western Conference Finals.
Purity wins!
Thank God we don't have Evander Kane.
The crazy thing about him is that his wiki. I think we did this at some point, maybe off air. His Wikipedia.
We definitely talked about it. I just don't know if it was.
I think we talked about it off air. Evander Kane's Wikipedia. Lots of famous people end up having a controversy section, but Evander Kane's has like 4 or 5 subheaders, and that is special.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Kyrie and KD. I thought we were going to talk more about this. It seemed like the Nets were all falling apart. At one point, Brian Windhorst reported that the Nets would prefer to lose not just Kyrie, but Kyrie and Durant rather than the status quo. Now, I don't know what exactly status quo meant. I don't know if that meant would rather lose them both than have another global pandemic that one of their stars refuses to be vaccinated against so he can play the sport. I don't know what status quo was, but it seemed like things were pretty bad. And then somewhere around 6-ish today,
yeah, just after 6.
Kyrie opts in for his last on the books year with the Nets. Some stuff could probably still change. I don't think Durant's going anywhere now. Potentially he could. Seems again quite unlikely that would happen though. And that kind of takes the wind out of the sails of me trying to drive the KD to Suns hype train.
It maybe starts back over though. Trains rearing up.
The DeAndre Ayton for a worse player hype train.
I was gonna say Ben Simmons, but
yeah, that might be true. I did go through a trade.
Neither of them played in their last playoff game. So
this is true.
Essentially the same.
Ben Simmons gets a lot more heat for being a worse player who plays roughly the same amount as Kyrie. Not quite as much, but it's a rounding error difference. That Nets team might just stay wild. We'll see. But there's a minute here from Bomani Jones on the Right Time, the most recent edition of his podcast, about all this that I thought was interesting. And I was listening to this earlier today, and I wanted to save it. And so Rudy hasn't heard it yet. But there is something in here that I just thought would be special for us.
Did you see the
This is his producer, Gabe,
that Lillard posted on his IG?
Yes, I did. And I'm like, look, dang, the weed ain't that good out there. First of all, what y'all got to give up? That's number one. If Dave Lillard's like, oh, yeah, we going to put this Kevin Durant jersey on him. Let me tell you what it's going to take to get Kevin Durant from the Nets. Dame Lillard, you're going to have to come over here, buddy. Anthony Simons is not going to be enough to headline that trade. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even remember who else played for y'all. Not quite sure. All I know is it's not Myers Leonard. He don't play for nobody. Other than that, I'm not really sure. But, hey, man, if Durant's out there, if I am the Denver Nuggets, that's the team where I'm like, yo, you go find a way. Can you imagine if somehow they were able to get out there with Jokic, Michael Porter, Jamal Murray, and Kevin Durant? So make it Jokic, Kevin Durant, and then one of those two guys, whichever one. Oh, man, we might be canceling Christmas.
Oh, boy.
Now,
I am in.
I knew you'd be in. I thought this would fuel.
Michael Porter Jr.'s back in his. Him and Kyrie would get along just great.
I'm sure that's true.
Porter Jr. and Kyrie see eye to eye on a lot of things. If Ben Simmons can just hang out, that's not a problem.
It's easy to see eye to eye when you're on a flat surface like the Earth.
Like the Earth.
I knew that you would be in on that. I knew that the idea of
Denver being a destination spot.
Jokic, Durant, and Jamal Murray. I knew that those words together would totally throw you for a loop.
The dream.
The issue now is the dream is already dead. The dream is dead before you knew it was dead because I
we'll see.
Can you imagine Kyrie staying and Durant getting out of there for some reason?
Here's what I will say. I do not know. Those two, I mean, obviously they went to Brooklyn together because they are friends, right? They became friends in the 2016 Olympics down in Brazil. That's how they knew each other. They like each other. At the very least, did like each other. I assume their relationship is still relatively fine.
Yes, but did you see one of the reports today? And again, right now, who knows if any of these reports are real?
Yeah.
One of the reports today was, KD said this on a podcast. So that might be his podcast. We'll talk more about Draymond's podcast later. But Durant said,
too many podcasts out there.
Listen, I agree.
Too many podcasts.
And the Rudy Salazar show will be debuting. I'm glad you went ahead and teased it there, Rudy. But we will Rudy's special podcast where he just talks about the Avs. It's 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, no commercials. It starts when AES ends, so it goes from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
It's nothing but the Avs and salads.
It's just,
that's
right. That's right.
Do love a good salad.
Look, I do too, man. I think a good salad is really underrated. We've talked about this. But the report was that KD he said he had not talked to the Nets front office, so he was not going to get involved in Kyrie's situation. That seems like a bad sign to me for that entire group. You like KD kind of choreographed all of that, right? The Nets just were happy to have a couple of elite players joining them.
He was you could say the LeBron of all this, right? He's the one who built the team. He was the one who recruited everybody.
If all of a sudden Lebo was like, "Hey man, Rudy's been really hard to get a hold of recently. He didn't show up for half of the shows last year because we said that one of the rules at 810 is that you have to wear pants every other day, and he would only come in on days where he did not forced to wear pants." Do you want Rudy to stick around though? Like, we didn't have us figure this out. We're about to have our no pants ever whatever. I've lost the analogy. I've lost the analogy.
Gotta wait like those pants did.
It really did. It's like, all right, we're about to get out. We're out of this space where we're going to force Rudy to wear pants, so he can come and keep producing in the tighty whities or whatever, as long as he has his own chair. And if I was like, Lebo, I am not going to get involved in Rudy's re-signing, that would be a pretty bad. I think that would reflect poorly on how I feel about working with Rudy. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe KD wants out. Maybe he's going to be a Nugget. I don't know. The dream is alive.
There is like that part of me, like, because if we're just talking like just purely basketball, it does make sense. Like if you were KD and you had to go somewhere like reasonably where you could go, right? That a team has to have assets to trade. They have to have salary cap room.
Some of their great assets are going to Brooklyn to get you.
Yes, Denver makes a lot of sense. If it was Jokic, Kevin Durant, and Jamal Murray, I mean that team's the favorite to win the West, right? Right?
Yes, I wasn't even thinking about that question. I was thinking about a question that I had asked myself, which is, what is this podcast hour going to be called? And I think calling it the Rudy Salazar isn't bad, but isn't as good as it could be,
We got something to workshop it. I just have to hope.
Denver, the center of the flat sports world. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I just got to hope
you
that
figure it out.
KD wants to cause some sort of harm to Kyrie, like emotionally, not physically. And
if he just slapped him.
And then after Irving has committed, he's just like, okay, I'm out. That, or it's just Kyrie just decides for whatever reason I'm not going to play basketball for a couple of weeks. He's just like, hey, I need a mental break. Just pulls a Dennis Rodman, and then Kim Durant's just like, that's it, trade me, I'm done. Goodness, I'd be so happy.
I think there are a lot of.
Here's the thing, like, unfortunately for what, like, it is like I've always thought it was a little weird that like that Denver isn't more of a destination city, just in the sense that like it does seem like a city. Like you hear players say all the time how they love going there to play.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like just a great city, especially like for NBA players.
Do you think there are players that take a full extra duffel bag with them to Colorado?
Yes.
An empty duffel bag that comes back as a full duffel bag?
But it's just not a destination spot, you know? And it's just LeBron and Josh Kroenke are friends, and LeBron wouldn't even give us a meeting. Which, I mean, I'm happy about. I mean, look how that's went. Like, we would have traded Jokic for Russell Westbrook. That would have been a nightmare.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, we continue talking sports. This show's been very sportsy. I have some real silly stuff that I want to get to tonight as well, but legally we need to take a commercial break. Also, the Royals called up Vinnie Pasquantino and traded Carlos Santana. We might need to wait till tomorrow to get to the rest of that story.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I got 2 nuggets. I'm happy.
Rudy got 2 nuggets, everybody.
I got my 2 nuggets
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I have a dumb Twitter question, build your team with $15. One's got to go for your, you get orange slices, apple juice, and I don't know, those games. This one here is from at Mad Scientist FF on Twitter. You earn the money amount associated with the sport you would give up watching forever. Which sport are you cashing in on?
Which one pays the most?
Well, here's the thing.
Because it's an easy decision.
I think that let me give you the 4 options here, because I think this is a fun one. I would like to make an adjustment and a suggestion, but I'll give you the original first. You give up Major League Baseball forever. You're never I'm going to say if there's a baseball game on, in your mind, there's a black screen.
Yeah.
You just can't perceive it.
You have to pay $10.
It says watching, so I don't know if there's anything there. But if you give up if you are physically unable to watch baseball ever again, you actually have to pay $100. That was a joke. You get $100,000 for giving up baseball. $500,000 for giving up NHL hockey. $1 million for giving up the NBA. $5 million for giving up the NFL. Now look, I mean, these are all. If this genie popped out of a lamp, you'd be happy to meet him. This is all a lot of money.
Yeah.
But do you have any hesitation, Rudy? Because $5 million is a lot more than $500K, which we just talked about hockey for the majority of this hour, and I'm like, that's an easy one for most people in the market here. NBA for $1 million is probably easy for a lot of people. I think there's a hilarious question of, would you pay $4 million to get the NFL on your television screen if you have $1 million in your pocket?
I love Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs have brought me a lot of joy. But I still got Kentucky football on Saturdays, baby, and $5 million is I wouldn't have to think about it. Just be like, yeah, give me okay, NFL, sorry, done.
I agree.
Give me $5 million. I'm a Kentucky football guy. We're a football school. I'm good. Even if you
difference
threw
there
in
is too
college
strong.
Football as well. There's
All football, sure.
Yeah, no problem. $5 million.
Yeah,
done.
I mean, I'm trying to think of other things that I love that I would give up for $5 million, and it's pretty much everything.
I don't know if there's a thing I mean, besides family, and even then, depending on which family
members
member
of the family,
they would understand. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, we'll take care of you.
I probably also wouldn't take care of them, but I'd be happy. They'd be happy with that. I'm happy, I think.
There's a lot of ways to wriggle around to that. What if it's $1 million to $2 million NBA to NFL?
I think I'll still take NFL.
That's a lot of money
because it's an extra $1 million, and I like watching the NBA.
Yeah, I do too. I think that the ratios here are not quite right, because I think that the idea of spending $4 million to watch the NFL.
There are probably some people though who would just be here in Kansas City, be like, yeah, NBA $1 million. I'm not greedy, and I get to keep watching Chiefs. It's fine.
I'm not. No. I've given that some thought. I'm not saying that that's
dumb.
I'm not saying that that's dumb necessarily. It just puts a very high dollar amount on the value of NFL football. I don't know.
I wish somebody would present me with this offer.
That's sort of what I'm ending up with.
That's what I wish.
I think that every time we do the money game, hey, would you do whatever for $100? We're always like, yeah, I just wish somebody would offer that to me.
Somebody would actually offer it.
Hey, would you stop watching TBS for but only through the months of February, not March Madness? Yeah, I'll take your dollar. That's fine. Pay me to not do something, please.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 W. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Now, Matt, the obvious conclusion of this segment, I'm going to go ahead and let you just sort of warm up the pipes and decide if you've got a Wookiee, if you got a Wookiee calling you. Here's what I'm going to say leading up to that. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick. You can check out his book, At Last, the Kansas City Chiefs' Unforgettable 2019 Championship Season, forward by Kevin Harlan at triumphbooks.com/ChiefsWin. And his Wookiee impression sounds like this.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You know, after having to get through as much Chiefs news as we have throughout this last hour, where we went from sort of existential dread around the universe to really, really detailed conversations about the Colorado Avalanche, the only logical next place to go is to bring in our expert on all things Stanley Cup playoffs, all things existentially dreadful, all things Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving related. Those have been our topics so far today. Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joins us. More like Hockey Digest. HockeyDigest.com is definitely taken, right?
I'm sure that it is. I mean, I think that was like a paper magazine back in the day.
Yeah, it really sounds like one. Currently, it does lead you to just sort of one of those splash pages that's like, hi, buy this domain. Apparently, the owner is offering it for an asking price of $5,960 US.
Well, that's a pretty good bargain.
That really is. Rudy told me that you were both reminiscing about hockey in general, and that you had one specific touch point that made me very excited to hear about. That I would love to know more about your expertise surrounding.
Well, we were talking about the Stanley Cup, and I brought in video games to it because every year during the Stanley Cup, I fire up my get an interest in hockey again. The other day, I had to fire up my NHL on the PlayStation. And it is just amazing how angry I get when I lose. I mean, I lost an overtime game to the Blackhawks, and I was angry the rest of the day. And I don't get that way playing any other game, just hockey. I mean, my pulse was up, and then we started talking because NHL '95, along with Super Tecmo Bowl, are the two greatest video games of all time.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, because seriously, in the first hour when we were talking about all this, I thought, man, I gotta see if there's currently a Nintendo Switch capable hockey game, and there's not. There is a change.org petition to bring the EA Sports NHL series to Nintendo Switch. So we're almost at 5,000 signees there. I'll be joining shortly. I would love to have that come through, but I don't know what it is about hockey and video games that makes it so easily transposable, but it's always felt good to play hockey video games, and I feel like we need to focus a large scale return for more of that.
I mean, I think when it comes to video game sports, I think the truest ones are hockey and baseball, because I don't think video game football. I don't think there's ever been one that truly has captured it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but it's just not. No, it's not the same kind of, I don't know. It's just, they're good. There's very good games, but it just doesn't pull you in. Whereas, hey, the baseball games actually have a pretty decent pace. I mean, there's the chess match to the whole thing, but video game hockey is just as intense as the real thing.
That's great. We got to start. They got to hop on this change.org petition. We got to make this happen for America.
The Avs winning. One of the first things I thought was, I'm gonna have to get the. I'll probably wait till the new edition because I want the of.
Because you want your teams to be the default in the quick game.
I want my team to be the national champion, or not the national champion, but the Stanley Cup champion team. But it's time for a new hockey game in my life. Yeah,
I think that's unequivocally true. Matt, did you ever play the franchise GM mode in Madden?
I have. It's terrible, and I hate it. But if we're really going to go down a rabbit hole here, I mean, and we're talking rabbit hole.
I love it. It's
I have been a hardcore gamer of a product called Front Office Football.
Yes, okay.
For about 25 years.
So we have talked about this on this show before.
We may have.
And I remember Googling it and then never actually I close my computer and then like a goldfish. I just have object permanence issues, but like with Chrome tabs, if I don't have it open in a tab, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna Google it on my phone where I've got let's just find out 23 open tabs basically of stuff I'm supposed to go back to later. They've been open. Some of these have been open for months, but I'm gonna dig back into this. Why do you hate franchise mode in Madden? And please do remind me again what makes front office football so good, because this is really what I am looking for.
What I hate about everything is what I hate about the franchise mode in Madden.
Okay.
The AI is terrible.
Fair.
Just makes absolutely terrible decisions.
Yep, fair.
The salary cap and math management is rudimentary at best. The roster development and everything just across the board just stinks. I mean, it's great if the only thing that you care about, building a dynasty is drafting a really good quarterback and just then having the best overall ratings across the board. And it's pretty easy to do since the computer is so terrible at making decisions. And then and you can't. I mean, it's there's no aging to it. I mean, it's just the development is terrible and takes forever. Whereas, goodness gracious, in FOS, good God, we can sim hundreds of seasons and everything. So, and the player progression model is fantastic. The rating system is superior. The depth as far as, being able to set your depth chart and build game plans and all of this stuff. And I never really got into the multiplayer aspect of it, although the guys who, in the community that play the multiplayer, they're hardcore. So, to me, it's the best football simulation out there. Now, granted, you have to like spreadsheets to do it.
Sure.
It's a spreadsheet game. There's no doubt about it. There's no graphics. There's nothing flashy or anything like this. It's, the graphics are very rudimentary. But if you are just a hardcore gamer, you like your spreadsheets, you like your simulations, this is for you. And for me, as a nerd, it's the best sports sim out there. I know, and I had this conversation with Sam McDowell a couple of weeks ago, and of course he brings up Football Manager, which is probably the one that most people are familiar with from the sports sim world. I think FOF is better, but I get that, Football Manager is supposed to be the gold standard. It has, better graphics, so I'll grant that. But FOF is up there.
Is Football Manager football, though, right?
It is soccer, exactly.
Right, okay. So, maybe there's something for me there, but front office football, I really just want... Front office football 8 is the version you're playing, right? Like, that's the newest version with some updates, it looks like?
Yeah, FOF 8 is the latest.
Okay.
The people who make Football Manager should start growing and branching out because they make a good thing. Do it with the other sports.
Give me a little front office basketball. Maybe just put my life in some spreadsheets and run that for me.
There's out of the park baseball.
There is out of the park. Yeah, out of the park's pretty good.
I know I said this last time, but again, I probably put in a Chrome tab on my Chromebook, and then it crashed, and I lost my tabs, and so I completely forgot about it like a goldfish. I am excited to give front office football a shake. Matt, if you were front office football offseason simming the Kansas City Chiefs right now, what would be the next thing you'd go take care of? Really, really gamify it for me, because I actually do want to know within the context of if you were GMing through a game.
Well, right now,
I'm opening everything to you. Also, I'm just saying, you are in charge here, and Clark Hunt loves your ideas.
Well, the first thing I think I would do at this point is I'm going to the free agent list, and I'm sorting the list for defensive ends only. And I'm looking through and seeing what some of the contract demands are there for some of the veterans. I'm looking for a player with some pretty high pass rush ratings. I know, hey, it's not going to be great. It's not, I'm not going to find somebody out there with a 95. But, I'm looking for somebody that's got, a high pass rush rating, a little bit of a decent floor elsewhere. I'm not looking for somebody who is, 87 in the pass rush and against the, run defense is a 12. And I don't need a super high endurance. Hey, got at least 40 endurance. That's okay by me. I'm looking for somebody who can get up the quarterback a little bit.
Who would you say is a current NFL player with a 40% endurance, would you say?
The 40 endurance, Mike Pinnell.
Okay. Yeah, he's been doing it for a while. He's a big guy. He might get you a few good snaps, but you probably don't want him out there on first, second, and third down all in a row.
You put him out there for 60 snaps a game. He's going to get a little tired. His performance will degrade a little bit after that.
Also, I will, just a quick little PSA here, and I'm trusting you on the dollar number here. You can tell me if this works, but right now it does appear that as a part of the Steam Summer Sale, Front Office Football 8 is 25% off on Steam, and the offer ends July 7th. So I could get it for
it's a pretty good deal.
$22.49.
That's a really good deal.
All right, I'm gonna add this to my cart. I'm gonna ask you a Chiefs question here in a second, and if you want to have a really long answer, so I can make sure that I am logged in on Steam on my phone.
I just added that to my wish list.
Yeah, I just need. So Orlando Brown, Matt. Hey Siri, open Steam app.
I mean, if we need to go through our Steam, wish list right now,
So this has happened on a couple of occasions where I am like, I completely forget that you do have video game loves in your life, that I just assume that, honestly, and I'm permeating a harmful stereotype. I assume that everybody who plays video games is a child like Rudy and I.
Yes.
I say it disparagingly as a member of that group, right?
We are children.
Yeah, like I grew up playing Neopets, and honestly, I kind of wish I was still playing Neopets.
I really do.
If I could just keep playing Neopets, I think I'd be pretty happy. But is there another video game of literally any form or fashion that you would like give the Matt Derrick seal of recommendation to?
Well, I think we've probably discussed this as well before too. I am a hardcore Civilization fan.
Yes. You love a sim management game, it seems.
I am. Sim managements are definitely my jam. I mean, that's what I do. The last game that I played that was now just in retrospect depressing with the invasion of Ukraine was Suzerain or whatever it's called, where you're basically taking over a fictional type. I don't know what you'd call it. It's maybe a Russian type style republic and everything. And the last time I played it, my family got murdered, so that did not end well.
Yeah, no, that's not good. Okay, not ideal.
And once again, I mean, it's not terribly. I shouldn't say it on the radio because I'm sure that it will sound very bad. Prison Architect has been pretty entertaining.
I have seen this game before. So like, if anybody's thinking of it, it's almost like.
Oh, yeah, I've also seen this game.
Like
it's got a 9 out of 10 on Steam. It's also on sale for 75% off.
They've got like a couple of they branch off into a couple of other games that are the same thing but blank architect.
Yeah, it's got some sort of Zook Tycoon vibes. It looks like, but it's about all the wonderful parts of the private prison complex. That's really good, Matt. I love that.
Yeah. That's entertaining. There was trying to think of what else is in my Steam library that I really play a lot.
Have you given any thought to trying to cross the line from like spreadsheet sim into a little more RPG elements? Could I interest you in a Stardew Valley?
Stardew Valley has been in my wish list for 4 years now.
Okay.
And every once in a while, I keep thinking about pulling the trigger.
So let me tell you two things about Stardew Valley. One is that I think it's still my second most played game on Switch. Maybe I got it like right at the crack of the pandemic and right at the crack of getting a Switch, and so I've got a few hundred hours in it, 200 or 300 hours probably. I played that game a lot. I like that game a lot. That's number one. Number two is that I believe that however much time I have put into Stardew Valley has been quadrupled by Renee.
Ah.
It's the only video game she's ever liked, and she loves it. And you might think, well, just wait until she discovers other video games. And I would say that's what I thought, but I was an idiot.
Wait until Chocolate Frontier or Chocolatier.
Haunted Chocolatier.
Haunted Chocolatier comes out.
Absolutely. She'll be in for that one. But Stardew Valley is wonderful. It's definitely leaving some of the spreadsheet, sim stuff, but it's got a lot of your sort of resource management itch. It's also on mobile, and Renee started playing it on mobile and really enjoyed it. So I don't know what what your mobile gaming life is like, but there's a dual recommendation from me and Renee both on Stardew.
Well, I see it as 40% off. I mean, so at $8.99, I may have to pull that trigger finally.
It is an unbelievable deal for if you play any of that game, it'll get you there. That's great.
Definitely, it gets bonus points for it being available on both Windows and Mac. So that means I can play it on my laptop too.
You've got that. There was a huge free update that came out recently. It's really all done by one developer who has just lovingly cared for that game over years now. It's honestly a tremendous story.
One is coming soon because he tweeted out. Somebody asked him a question. He tweeted out 1.6 is coming, and then also that Haunted Chocolatier is.
Same universe.
It exists essentially in the same universe as Stardew Valley.
But it's not like a 1-to-1 sequel. That game's going to rule. But yeah, there you go. We've now recommended, your front office football, a little Stardew Valley. I feel like we've covered a pretty wide spectrum here. So certainly everybody who tuned in to hear if you're going to tell us if Orlando Brown's going to sign a contract or not has to be thrilled.
By the way, I just want to give a quick shout to Crossy, a first-time chatter on the Twitch. Says Stardew Valley's perfect to play on and off. It's just always a good time to just kick back and relax with.
It's 100% true. It's a great game. It really is wonderful.
It has now been moved ahead in my wish list, ahead of Kerbal Space Program. So
I've also heard that's excellent. That you would love. Oh boy, we're just doing a video. I love that we've just started. Hi, welcome to. Earlier we said there were too many podcasts.
So much Chiefs news.
Welcome
last week.
Welcome to Video Games with
June
Matt Derrick.
27th. This is the most Chiefs news there is to talk about.
No, I 100% agree. No. I think that we have found a wheelhouse.
Anybody who's upset, it's like, hey guys. There's nothing.
Did you play XCOM or any of those? Does a turn-based game like that get you?
I'm not opposed to. Absolutely not opposed to turn-based games. I'm definitely in that, but I have not gotten into XCOM.
I never did. The closest I got was the Mario vs. Rabbids Kingdom Battle on Switch, which is shockingly great. I have no shame about it. It's silly, but it's a fun
Mario XCOM
version of that. Yeah, basically.
I've never played XCOM, but yeah, I've heard it's like kind of the premiere of those strategy RPG games.
Also, boy, doing this segment during the Steam Summer Sale is a tough one because I've also had
everything's on sale right now.
Every single friend of mine who's ever played FTL, which is short for Faster Than Light, has recommended it very highly. It is currently $250 on Steam, so I might just have to knock that one out in the commercial break also, because that's not very much money. But that seems like that might be of interest to you. And I know you love an inner space aesthetic. That's got to be worth something.
Clearly, it's in my ballpark. Yes. Yeah, I've considered it. I mean, it has not been on my wish list, but I do know people who have recommended it.
I started finally. I love where this. I just love where this hour's gone. I'm just happy. I started. Oh God, Rudy! The sequel, just the Star Wars game.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes, Knights of the Old Republic. The second one just came out. I never played either of them. I just bought the not even a remake. It's just on Switch now. It just ported to Switch. Yeah. It is basically a D&D game, which I didn't know. Like you're fully simming dice rolls and doing stat modifiers and everything. That was a big upset to me. I've enjoyed it so far. I played a couple hours. Did you ever fall in love with a Star Wars game at any point?
It's funny you should ask that because I've for my nostalgia, I bought one of those packs a few years ago. So I actually have more, old school Star Wars games on my Steam account than anything else. So
yeah.
I've got X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, Rebel Assault and Rebellion, and Starfighter, and yes, Jedi Knight 2, the original Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, that's what I'm playing. It hasn't even been remastered or anything. It's just the original, and it so far the gameplay's been very, very fun. So maybe that also. We got to get. Just let me know whenever you've got a video game update. If you've got a shot clock review of any video game ever, I will forever make time for you to share that with us because I think that this is a new, very deep well of what this segment can be.
Well, and I think it was either, I mean, it may have been last fall at training camp. We were having another conversation related kind of to this, and I mentioned that in my my MLB The Show 17, I still have a career going as a pitcher. Yes, I'm like 45 freaking years old.
You're Jamie Moyer. That is so good.
I know. I just won another Cy Young, so I wasn't going to retire. I'm not going to retire until I'm no longer at my best. So.
You won a Cy Young in your 40s?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
What was Jamie? How old was Jamie Moyer?
I may have to double check my difficulty setting. I thought it was pretty high, but you know what? It's. I thought it was pretty high on because I typically don't buy a lot of updates because the updates are always rip-offs, especially Madden. I mean,
yes.
If you have Madden 15, I mean, right now it's the same freaking game.
Yep.
So I have, and I'm cheap, so there's that factor. So I have MLB The Show 17, I have FIFA 16, and I thought that I was doing really well at FIFA, and then I found out my difficulty setting was way too low, and that was the reason why I was much better than I actually should have been.
Yeah.
And then I got a rude awakening, but.
Wow. Look, I mean, if you're having fun on a lower difficulty setting,
that's all that matters.
But giving up that overtime goal to the Blackhawks on the pro setting in the NHL was devastating.
That's the beauty of a good video game. If it makes you mad for a couple days afterwards, it's stuck with you.
That's the appropriate setting, exactly.
Would you guys both like to guess how old Jamie Moyer was in his last game? Baseball Reference has it to the day.
49 years. 250 days.
Okay, same format. Matt, what is your answer?
I'm going to go 47 years, 149 days.
What was yours again, Rudy?
49 years, 250 days.
I can give you 49 years, 191 days, and not a week better. Price is Right rules, Matt wins.
Wow.
Closest to the pin rules, Rudy wins. I did not clearly establish that.
I knew he was approaching 50, but didn't get quite to 50.
5 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, 7 earned runs in the L. But pitched near 50. That's unbelievable.
Still wasn't old as Satchel.
Oh, that's a good point, man. Baseball is different from when Jamie Moyer was last pitching 10 years ago. But baseball evolves funny. We talked about this when Shohei Ohtani was in town or whatever. He had his night at the plate, and then the next night pitched 8 innings. Nobody pitches 8 innings anymore. And that guy's a position player, sort of. Like, he makes me want to care about baseball more than I do again.
Yeah, that dude is just, I mean, he could play for the freaking Yankees, and I'd root for him just because what he's doing is so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And there have been other guys that probably could have done it, and teams should have let them do it, but I mean, that was freaking Babe Ruth, man.
Yes, he's Babe Ruth. If Babe Ruth in the modern era was properly adjusted to be as good in the modern era as he was at that time, like that eventually Babe Ruth stopped pitching, so he could just focus on just hitting dingers, and he hit a lot of them.
The only thing that would be that is the difference, and the thing that still freaking amazes me about freaking Babe Ruth, and I just see freaking so many times.
You're so excited about Babe freaking Ruth.
Well, I am, because the dude was hitting 50 home runs, and if somebody were going to be the equivalent of doing that today, they'd be hitting like 140 because he was hitting 50 home runs, and second was like some guy with 18.
And he was doing all of that when the baseball was a bunch of wadded up tube socks.
Eating hot dogs.
And the guy who hit 18 home runs, 6 of them were probably inside the park job.
So true.
And, the guy played in Forbes Field, where the center field was 550 yards away.
That's a great point.
This reminds me, I once played in a boys club baseball league as a kid with the Kiwanis League down in Springfield, Missouri. We had a field that didn't have a fence. It didn't have an outfield fence.
Love those fields.
So it was impossible to hit one out of the park because there was literally no fence.
Yeah, what's the rule setup there? Is it just like backyard baseball rules of just like there's a course in the backyard baseball video game that I think was like that, or just had some incredible monster. So you just were chasing it for as long as it would roll? Like that's
Yeah, I mean there wasn't even like a road or anything like that. It was just I mean the road and the fence to the there was a fence technically to the park.
Right. But it was a mile away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean this would have been like if Kaufman didn't have any field and the fence at Kaufman was out by I-70.
Yeah,
I mean
you could hit a home run at that park, but you were going to need to hit it 4,000 feet.
Yeah, I mean you could hit a home. The way you hit a home run was just you managed to get over everybody's heads, and there was nothing to stop it. So it rolled for a little bit. But then again, we were all like 10 years old, so how far could we hit the freaking ball?
Do you have some of the same freaking love for freaking Barry Bonds at all, or has that been freaking ruined by the steroids and stuff for you?
That was ruined by the steroids and the body armor.
Fair enough.
I mean, I went to the plate. I had on a wristband. That's all I had. Oh, I had a cloth wristband, a cotton wristband, for sweat.
And Babe Ruth was out there in a wool uniform. I mean. So I get it. I just, I wanted to get what the exact number was just because it stuck with me one time, and I just went back, and it is still amazing, that in 2004, you want to play the game again where you guess how many times he was intentionally walked in 2004?
Intentionally walked in 2004? He walked like, 204 times that year?
Let me find the 232.
Okay, I undershot it.
He walked 232 times in 2004.
Oh my God!
But you're pitching around Babe Ruth. You're picking around the outside of the zone. If you let him on, you let him on. 1.5 times per game. How many times did they not even try to pitch to him?
For Bonds in 2004, I will say 108.
Rudy?
I'm going to go with 89.
120 times. He got what? He only played in 147 of their games. He got intentionally walked nearly every game.
I would have intentionally walked him every single time to the plate because right. he was roided up and had, he was better equipped than we're sending our soldiers into war.
Yes, he was. The Hulk was batting, and your only hope was that Bruce Banner would be the one running the bases.
And honestly, I probably wouldn't even intentionally walk him. I'd just tell my pitcher, just aim for the fat and drill him and put him on. Just throw one pitch, save 3 pitches, man.
Hit him and see if he notices, because right now his nerve endings
are
fried.
Hurt. I mean, the only way it might hurt is if you hit him in the big fat butt of his. Which I assume was as big as it was because that's where he got the steroid shot.
And that's how that works. Yeah, that is absolutely how that works, I think. You put the steroids in your butt, and then all of a sudden you're just walking around with an absolute dumper.
Because Clemens had one, too. But then again, he had one even when he was 22. So
that's the Rocket, man. You can't be the Rocket without having a base to launch off of.
We have officially killed off this Chiefs segment, haven't we?
That dude had Cape Canaveral in his underpants.
This is what it's like on June 27th on Chiefs Beat, by the way.
In the back of his underpants, to be clear. I don't know about his front rocket. It was his nickname, though.
You're even worse than I am.
Hearing you give up on this segment gave me confidence. That's what happened there. It's like, well, Matt doesn't. Matt has no interest in talking about any of the nothing that we have right now anyway, and so we can just really sink into this. And I had a nice time.
You got me started on Babe Ruth, and that was a hot topic.
Babe Ruth in video games is. I would rather talk about that than. I really do love talking about Chiefs football. I think it's really fun, but it is June 27th, and
so you say Babe Ruth in video games, and it gets me sad because when I think of the Babe Ruth of video games, that was Bo Jackson.
Oh,
Bo.
Yes. Do you want to talk about Bo Jackson now? Also, I saw your tweet about him whenever that was a few days ago.
Yeah.
You just waxed poetic about Bo Jackson. This segment rules.
Well, I remember because I looked it up and I even did the stats because somebody had put out there what his career stats were and everything, and I pointed out that his stats were actually better after he got the artificial hip.
It's so good. His batting average went up by 2 points. His OBP went up by 3 points. I don't have the OPS slugging splits, But yes, his stats improved.
I mean, because he was always going to be a strikeout machine. But once he got kind of past that 88 season when he just, swung at everything and then he learned to be somewhat more discerning or at least just hit the pitches that he was swinging at even if they weren't strikes, then, he got better. And then, he was kind of that same guy. He was just slower after the hip.
What is your memory? What is your real time memory of him? Because I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of how old you would have been around any of that. But like that,
I remember I would have been 14 years old when he signed with the Royals. Okay. Because I think that was in '86, right?
He was an All-Star in '89. Yeah, that seems about right. I'll let you know for sure.
I think he signed in '86, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I thought it was '86. Could have been '85, but I thought it was '86. But I remember I was at work with my mom when the news broke that he was signing with the Royals, and I just was in complete disbelief. I mean, there was just no way that Bo, of all people, was signing with the Royals because he was going to play. He was the number one draft pick in football. He was going to go play football. And the fact he was signed with the Royals, I knew what kind of a baseball player he was because I was a hardcore nerd. and I saved up my money. I bought the Fleer rookie card set that had the first Bo Jackson rookie card because, that was important to me. So I have the entire, 128 card update set with his rookie card. You watch batting practice with Bo, and it was just like what Buck O'Neill said. You could just hear it. And I know Buck said it was just the last time you heard that was Josh Gibson. And you got the batting practice for a Royals game with Bo because he was just going to be hitting these things out in the parking lot, and it was just these rockets. And then I was watching that game against Seattle. Because it was on the West Coast, so it was 11 o'clock. I was in the basement watching that game when he threw out Harold Reynolds at the plate. And, I just went nuts because that was crazy. I remember when he, because he did it a lot, but I think the first time he ran up the wall was against Baltimore. And it was, did he really just run up the wall for crying out loud?
It's unbelievable, and something that I had not really thought of until just now. I had his baseball reference and football reference pages both up side by side because it's just a fun thing to be able to do. And I would have gotten wrong one-time All-Star, one-time Pro Bowler. And I know there are obviously there's a lot of stuff that I think is probably interesting there. You probably have several immediate thoughts, just like even that idea. But what is interesting to me is that even without a bunch of the on paper accolades that you would expect from an athlete who is so universally remembered and beloved the way that he is, he just old school kind of caught everybody's imagination and disbelief. He did that differently, I think, right? In terms of being something that everybody had to know about and talk about because it was totally unique, just in a unique way, I guess.
I mean, he was both helped and hurt by the fact that we didn't watch him grow old, on the field in front of us. I mean, had he grown old, then there probably wouldn't be the nostalgia that the folks like I have that saw him play and everything like that had.
Right.
Because we were kind of robbed of seeing so much more of him and everything. And eventually, hey, the next generation would have said, oh, he's a good player, but by the end, he didn't have any legs left. And maybe there would have been but so much of the what if. But at the same time, every time you saw Bo Jackson play, whether it was football or baseball, you knew you were going to see something that nobody else in the league could do at that time. I mean, and it was especially true in baseball. I mean, he was as good as he was at football. I mean, in baseball, he was going to do something that nobody else in the league could do. Yeah. And who's that true about? I mean, it's true about Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, as good as LeBron is, I don't know if it's true about LeBron. I mean, LeBron's just kind of a robot.
It's true about Ohtani now. That's my full circle thing.
Ohtani.
Is we are fascinated by him on a team that stinks and plays when it's late, but he's different.
It was true about Tiger.
Yeah.
I mean, the number of people that this is true about is on one hand. And yeah, I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous the things that he could do. And once again, I mean, the things that I was watching that game against the Yankees in what 1990, I think it was, and he homered his first 3 times up, and then I think he actually made the catch in center field. He laid out trying to make a diving play. I think he made the catch, but tore up his shoulder. He's out for like 3 months. That's one of the reasons why he doesn't get the 1990 All-Star nod.
Right.
Then his first at bat coming off the DL, home run. I mean, and I mean, it was after he hit those first 3 home runs against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. It's like, oh my, this dude is hitting 4 home runs in Yankee Stadium, and then he jacks up the shoulder. That is just like, I mean, that's the life of Bo. I mean, it was just, oh my God, if this guy could have stayed healthy.
Yeah. But also, like you said, there is also an advantage to that on some level that I think is interesting for how he's remembered. You could have given me 10,000 guesses about how we were going to fill 35 minutes of radio with you tonight, Matt, and I would have gotten virtually none of it, even partially correct. But I just looked over and did realize that we needed to take a break and continue on with the rest of the show and everything. But so thanks for being here to talk about video games and baseball aliens. This was a lot of fun.
We should do it again sometime.
We should. Just let's delay training camp forever.
People might appreciate it if we did it off the air, but you never know.
Well, we can still do that, but sometimes you got to give the good stuff to the people, and I think we can agree this segment was the good stuff. Thank you, Matt.
Take care, guys.
For more great work like that about, well, none of that topics, you can go to ChiefsDigest.com and also follow him on Twitter at MattDerrick. Well, he will occasionally tweet about Bo Jackson, usually tweets about the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'd like to hope that anybody listening to this show would be okay with a mix of the two.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810 WH. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
If you're new to the show, ask someone who's not new to the show, hey, does Josh understand the value of value in the NFL and the value of rookie contracts and all that? And I promise you, anyone who's ever listening to the show will scream in your face, yes, God, yes, he never shuts up about it. It's so boring and dumb and I hate it.
Also, we're on rookie contracts.
Yes, correct. So we know that value intimately.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks again to Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com for joining us. I've got a couple of Stardew Valley-based things I'm going to mention now because Rudy and I were talking about it during the break, and I thought, hey, I could just share this with the entire audience. As I mentioned, not a bit at all whatsoever. Fiance Renee has played significantly more Stardew Valley than I have. It's the only game I've ever seen her play like this. She's all about it, to the point that right now she might be on her somewhere between her 5th and 10th farm, I would guess. To the point that now she's actively speedrunning it to try to get, all of the achievements as quickly as possible. She's done some with a bunch of mods, all of that. If you are about to play Stardew Valley, if you're about to pick it up right now, you think, you know what? This endorsement from me is putting me over the edge. Here's what I would like to offer to you. Do not start by playing it like Renee. Because the worst thing I think you can do in Stardew Valley is start it with the goal in mind of min-maxing everything, getting every plant planted, getting every piece of gold possible at the absolute peak of their. You don't want to waste your crops. You don't want to waste your seeds by planting out of season. You don't want to make any big mistakes. You want to. Make sure your plants are going to be harvested before the season changes. That's important. Do a little bit of math on that. But beyond that, just play the game at a pace that feels good to play through. There's no end. You can theoretically play the game forever, I think. Just it's there to be enjoyed and experienced. You don't have to rush through it. If you enjoy the game on several levels to the point that you decide that trying to create God's perfect farm is your goal, then you can join Renee in that path. But don't start by doing it that way, because that's not gonna get you there. Hey, you know what? Actually, let's play this Draymond clip here, because I want to talk about it a little bit with Aaron Ladd of KSHB 41. He'll join us here in about 15 minutes. So I ought to bring you the audio, and this is sort of evolved and devolved beyond this. Draymond has said some stuff to Kendrick Perkins. Some of it not great words. Kendrick Perkins responds with a bunch of not safe for radio words, but not necessarily quite the loaded words that Draymond had chosen on a couple of occasions. There's all of that. This doesn't have any of the naughty words. This is just a clip that is a different angle on it. So that's one thing. Another element of all of this is Skip Bayless is still out here tweeting about Russell Westbrook. He does the nickname that what Russell Westbrook has talked about on multiple occasions. He's I don't appreciate, you making a joke out of my family name. And on some level, I think that's a pretty reasonable thing for a human being to, not enjoy. You could also say it comes with the territory, whatever. That's all right. I don't love that having somebody else constantly be a bleep to you is ever really just sort of comes along with the job, other than being Roger Goodell when it is explicitly the job. But I can see both sides of that. I don't think it costs Skip Bayless anything to not be a bleep to Russell Westbrook. And if you're a super uber famous, super uber wealthy athlete, money doesn't always matter, but kind of matters. We all know that it kind of matters. You'd like to be able to just not care what Skip Bayless thinks. But Skip tweets something out like that. Westbrook says, don't say anything on here you wouldn't say to my face. And then Skip does the thing that is when you know somebody has lost, which is come on my show and talk about it with me. I'll say it to your face. You got to be careful who you play that game with. Because what's the saying of never wrestle with a pig in the mud, because you'll both get muddy and the pig will enjoy it. That's the Skip Bayless experience here. Do you know what would be awesome for Skip Bayless? if he and Russell Westbrook sat in his podcast studio, Skip called him Westbrick to his face, and then Westbrook comes over the table and beats Skip Bayless until somebody comes and separates them. That's the worst case scenario for Russell Westbrook and the best case scenario for Skip Bayless, because everybody would talk about that forever. We still talk about Jim Rome and Chris Everett. That is what I know the name Chris Everett from. If you Google I just did the thing. It was Jim Everett. He kept calling him Chris Everett. It's all stupid. My apologies to Jim Everett. You have a physical confrontation that lives on in infamy. Jim Rome won that. Every time an athlete engages with somebody who's just trolling, that's what the troll has been fishing for. Not every media-athlete interaction is in bad faith or is built up for some sort of explosion or whatever, but Skip Bayless is pretty much all are. So anyway, that's one aspect of all this that I think is sort of interesting and maybe we can kind of grow from. But now there's kind of this idea of talking about old media and new media. This is something that I care about deeply, have been sort of dug into deeply for my entire adult life. You know, the first media that I produced on a regular basis was a podcast. But then I started working for the school newspaper. And now I'm here in terrestrial radio. But then we also podcast and live stream. I both in the format and in the style, I think I know a lot, appreciate a lot about quote-unquote old media and quote-unquote new media. But there's a clip here from Draymond Green, just, again, talking. You'll hear who he's talking about. He says his name at the end. But I'll let you hear it first, unjudged by me. And then we'll see if you can kind of hear this. But if we're talking about old media and new media, Draymond Green, an active player who did a podcast from the post-game press conference after winning the title. He's doing more podcasts now. Active players getting into media is a relatively new thing that we're seeing a lot of growth from. Listen to this audio from Draymond Green.
It's not that. That's not what wins you the NBA Finals. It is the smallest edge that wins someone the NBA Finals. And because all these dumb talking heads never done it, they don't understand it. Even the one that has done it don't act like he's done it because he's an idiot and a moron and wasn't really that good of a player. And so I'm talking about Kendrick Perkins, by the way.
Here's my question for you, okay? If you heard that, but it was in Skip Bayless's voice, would you notice the difference? If you heard that in Stugatz's voice doing a bit, he's an idiot and a moron, Kendrick Perkins, by the way, you wouldn't bat an eye. And I like the idea of active players getting into the media game. I think there's some stuff that active players could bring, or recently retired players can bring. I think there's so much room for creativity in the media space, just generally speaking. I'm not just saying who's hosting the podcast, but how they're structured and what they do. The ideas and the things that you wrestle with throughout them. Also, John Wall is going to sign with the Clippers once he clears waivers, according to Woj. That was the face I was making while the audio was playing. It's kind of weird. I don't love it.
John Wall, baby.
I like John Wall, and I don't really want the Western Conference to get players who might still be good and probably on the cheap now with buyout. Anyway. There is so much room for quote-unquote new media to do some really unique and interesting things. But what that clip and a lot of the things that Draymond has done, what that has reminded me of is the fact that different does not mean original. Different hosting doesn't mean creating anything new in the format. Nick Wright was giving Draymond flack on Twitter because he said that he's in episode 2 of his podcast out of season. He's already in reruns, trying to dunk on Nick Wright for not owning his Andrew Wiggins take enough. I don't care. This is not always super easy. Breaking the format is often quite difficult. Being creative ever is hard. This is a huge, whatever you got on your mind, or you can have the next sentence after I finish this one. one of my recurring biggest issues in American politics is how deeply uncreative so many of the solutions are. It's just, well, what if we do this thing that maybe we've done for 100 years? And then somebody else goes, no, that's stupid. We'll do nothing at all. I go, okay, hi. Is there anything else we could throw at this? Could we listen to creative people offering creative solutions? This can be from something as serious as the entirety of the country to something as foolish as Draymond Green's podcast, or as foolish as this radio show. I don't talk down the Draymond Green because I'm doing this from the radio and you're doing... No, I've got none of that.
We accidentally run reruns all the time.
It happens all the time, yeah. We do a lot of hours and there's a lot of reruns. I just want it to be more creative. And so Draymond is not the guy to, right now, he's not the guy to bring up this whole like new media thing. Charles Barkley, is Charles Barkley new media or old media? He's an old man in old media, but he feels fresh. Yeah. It's because he is creative and his entire deal is different. Draymond's saying, they never played the game. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's an idiot and a fool. You know what I'm talking about? Kendrick Perkins, by the way. It's like, all right, man, I heard that in Twitter Spaces last night. That's everywhere. Draymond Green is doing Twitter Spaces as a podcast, and we're going, ooh, this is fresh and different. It's not really. I hope he does something fresh and different. That's just not really it.
And he and again, like, and there is something cool about this, but the fact that, like, the part of the shtick, right, the appeal is, oh, he did it right after they lost, right? Like, oh, just because we lost doesn't mean I'm not going to record my podcast. Now, you have to actually like still say something,
right?
But
yeah, you're right. That's different. Hey, again, doing it with the backdrop of the press conference, doing it in your jersey or your championship T-shirt or whatever. That looks different. It feels a little bit different, but the next evolutions are not going to just come from podcasts at half court. It's going to be changing the format in some sort of meaningful way, or bring access that's different. You go to like The Shop, that's a different format of like a sort of a talk show evolved differently. That is different. Yeah. That is changing the format. That's LeBron and his crew using their power and influence to make something more interesting.
I think both JJ Redick and CJ McCollum have done a good job with that, of doing something a little different, that's a little creative, that's well done.
Their analysis is great, but they're still forced into a TV format. Like, there are a decent number of people who never played who would give better analysis than Draymond did there. So there are a lot of different paths you can make to even good content. Not all good content is super unique and original. I just wish more of it was.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
They say to never mess with the classics, but Panera did just that and more with our new Chef's Chicken Sandwiches by using pan-seared...
doesn't even begin until Thursday afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. But we have already got player movement. The news from earlier today that Kyrie Irving's $30 million. Well, tonight, from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski and Tim McMahon, John Wall and the Houston Rockets agree on a contract buyout. Now, Wall's salary is $47.5 million for next season, which is just insane. According to Tim McMahon, the two sides have agreed to shave $6 million off of that on the buyout. And now Woj reports tonight, once John Wall clears waivers, because he's going to, he plans to sign with the Los Angeles Clippers. Let's also remember Kawhi Leonard didn't play at all last year for the LA Clippers, and they also got only part of the year from Paul George. So next year's Clippers are going to be Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and John Wall. It's a little enticing right there. WNBA superstar Brittany Griner going to have her trial set for being arrested allegedly for cannabis possession at a Moscow airport. It'll start on Friday. Sources telling and experts telling ESPN's TJ Quinn that a trial and a conviction, regardless of evidence, is always likely. Baseball tonight, Yankees have just rallied here in the bottom of the seventh inning with still batting. They have a 6-5 lead over the Oakland A's. Rockies are up 2-0 off the Dodgers. Toronto hit 3 homers tonight. They lead Boston 7-1 north of the border in the ninth.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
A walk-off 3-run home run for Judge.
I don't foresee him signing back with the Yankees unless the Yankees blow him away.
The guys will be back Tuesday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
The two biggest detriments to me ever having like an actual radio career, I think, or I have three greatest detriments. Number one, I have a bad memory. Number two, I'm easily distracted. And number three, I'm not good at radio.
With Joshua Brisco.
Also, he's not that likable.
I was going to say that next, actually. Yeah. I was going to say also, I'm not very likable.
You have a squeaky voice for radio.
Right, I do. I have a bad radio voice.
You have a girly laugh.
I definitely have a very girly laugh. I alienate people.
People don't like hipsters.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I had a really distressing moment just now, which is that I was trying to get on Twitter and things weren't loading. I didn't need Twitter for anything, but just the idea of Twitter being down for even a moment, I mean, just struck fear straight into my heart. I probably need to figure out some better things in my life to rely on than just always knowing that Twitter will be there for me. I don't
know if you want Twitter to always be there for you. That's the thing.
I really don't. I think every time I've had a reason to not be on Twitter for just like 4 straight days, I come back and I'm like, I'm like Donald Glover from Community, and the pizza gif and everything's on fire. But it's usually like I'll just go shut this door and then eat a slice of pizza outside. I don't know what Aaron Ladd's hashtag brand social media strategy is, but I'm kind of interested to find out. If you want to get more from Aaron, you can follow him on this beloved Twitter site at AaronLadd0. Of course, you can see him on KSHB 41 on a regular basis there as well. Aaron, do you have like a diet plan for your Twitter access, or are you just feasting at the trough too much like I am?
You know, I'm actually coming up on a little hiatus that I try and do every year right around the 4th of July. I'll unplug for about 4 or 5 days, and it's kind of like you come back to mayhem and madness no matter what time of the year it is. But it feels good to kind of unplug. I mean, we're always carrying I got 2 phones on me at all times. It's good to put those down and just unwind for a bit.
Rudy's about that 2-phone life, or was for a long time. Are you currently have 2 in the holster?
So I always have the second phone on me. I've just had less need because I'm not going out and shooting as much video, or like
sure.
I'm more here at the station now. So I always have it in my backpack, or in the side of my backpack.
In the holster, just ready to go.
There are times where it doesn't get used in a while. When I do go to grab it, it's dead because I forgot to charge it. So I've got it, but I'm not using it like I used to.
That's honestly probably for the best. Do you have in this hiatus? Do you have like other things that you're planning on? Like I don't know what the inverse of just social media plug-in is, but I mean, you just go touch some grass for a couple days, or do you have a whole ordeal for yourself?
You know, look at the blue sky and just twiddle my thumbs like they did in the good old days. I'm actually headed to a guy's trip out in Denver, and it's cool. I still have the other apps. I'll still be on Instagram. I can't get rid of Instagram, but Twitter, just once every year, just try and put it down for a little bit.
I think that's good. I also am thinking now, I don't think you can twiddle anything other than your thumbs. I'll put that out as a poll question because that feels like something that the people would like to, speak out on. If there's anything you can twiddle other than the thumbs, or if that's exclusively the domain of the thumbs. I can't think of anything else, though. Does anything catch your eye in the sports world at the moment? There are a few things that we've talked about tonight that I'll run by you, but baseball is in a dark place. Football is just the lights are out until training camp, and the NBA is we've got a little bit of hustle and bustle, but then that kind of got a little bit cut down today. NHL season just wrapped up. Anything go? You know what? I do actually enjoy this sports thing happening in late June.
I text you before I came on. I'm like, look, anything but the Kansas City Royals. I can't do it. I don't want to even think about it, whatever. But I'm at Kauffman today for Vinnie Pasquantino's arrival and the symbol moment where we lift him up on top of the mountaintop and anoint him as the new savior of what's going on down there. And what immediately stood out to me was his personality. There's pressure on this guy, and he's heard everything about why isn't he up here yet, and what took so long, and this and that. And I'm sure he's heard the pressure and expectations of Royals fans hoping to get back to some sort of relevance. But he just seems to laugh it all off. He's had some good laughs about the Italian breakfast thing, which I'm still trying to uncover what that actually is at this point in time. But I'm wishing nothing but the best for him specifically in this situation because it's tough. I mean, he's going to have some pressure on his shoulders, and people want him to produce exactly what he's doing in AAA right now. We know that's not going to happen. And if we know it's a Royals debut, I mean, he's going to start slow. But his personality and all that good stuff, it made me seem like, I'm rooting for this guy.
Yeah, some of the clips that I heard from all of that were excellent. And if we don't play them tonight, maybe we'll play them later in the week. We're really bad at getting to the audio that we've promised.
No, that's not true.
What is it that fills you with the most despair about the Royals? Is it all of baseball and the length of it all? Is it that it's just been bad baseball? Does one thing get stuck in your craw at this point?
I think it's, oh, God, you're really trying to get me in trouble here, Brisco. I think it's the insistence by the front office that, they're going to white-knuckle this no matter what. And they're doing the right thing, and we're just barreling down this path by any means necessary. It just is idiotic, right? Like, don't piss on me and tell me that it's raining. I think fans here in Kansas City know what the deal is and what's going on. And you can be honest with them. You can be front forward with them and say, hey, you know what? It's not great right now, but this is the plan. To me, it almost seems like we're kind of just building this airplane in the sky, and we're just flying it one piece at a time, and we'll make a move here and make a move there and see how it goes. But that's probably the most frustrating part to me is that it seems like we're almost being lied to on a day-to-day basis about what the status of the club is now and what the future looks like.
I think that tracks 100%. I will not try to make you talk more baseball or get you into any further trouble. Are you a hockey guy at all? I mean, you've got your Atlanta allegiances, and the Thrashers were there like whenever I was still playing backyard hockey on PC, but then I know they're not anymore. Did hockey fever ever wash over you at any point?
The Atlanta metro area has had two hockey teams come and go in my lifetime. The Flames and the Thrashers gone. And as a young sports-loving child, my parents tried their hardest. They would bring me to games. I was wrapped in the Believe in Blue Land scarves and Ilya Kovalchuk. Oh, I was the guy, right? And then they left. And like a scorned ex-lover, I swore it off.
Yeah.
I heard the NHL playoffs were amazing this year. I tuned in for the third period of a close game, but kudos to Colorado. They were the best team all year, according to ESPN, and I'm just going to rock with that.
No, that's fine. I was curious if you had a story, and you did. Is that your most bitter sports heartbreak? Or, I mean, I know that's tough to ask an Atlanta fan. I know.
Brisco.
No, I said it out loud, and I thought, oh no, he's got so many things to choose from. What is your most bitter one?
Super Bowl 56. What do you mean?
I figured. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. But what happened in that one? I can't remember.
You want me to hang up now?
I
so
thought
you
you
can go the
might.
rest of the show,
I was
or-
really, really, really prepared to just hear the click sound, which is the sound that is made of just an iPhone hang-up button being hit. You know, it's not nearly as satisfying as hanging up a handset that like rings when you put it down. But I was really anticipating that. I appreciate you sticking around.
I don't think people understand how tough that really was. My dad is a lifelong Falcons fan. He grew up in the area and has seen the team go from the NFC West to the NFC South. He called me at halftime of that game. We were giddy with joy, planning our parade route, and, I mean, we had just seen the mountaintop, right?
Yeah.
I'm in a dark place, man. Ever since then, it's not gotten better.
Yeah. Why? What is it? I don't know if it was at that moment or if it had been years in the making and just in the long-time DNA of Falcons fans. One thing I have realized is that, and this is, I think we might have talked about this before because you occupy two of these spaces. I love Sad Falcons Twitter and Sad Mizzou Twitter. I just find both of those to be fan bases. Not that I love your misery, but I love what you guys do with it. You know, like that particular brand of I'm just going to make fun of myself and my own miserable franchises. It really makes for good content. But why are Falcons fans in particular so good at that?
You know, when you've been beaten and bloody Sunday after Sunday and you drag yourself back to the television screen or the Georgia Dome or now the Mercedes-Benz Dome week after week, knowing what's going to happen, you harden to it. You build a little thickness in your bones, in your blood. You know, it doesn't take the little 28-3 jokes anymore. I mean, it takes a little bit more than that to really get me going. I understand. Everybody gets it. And another part of it is that we've been close, man. I mean, the best years of Falcons football have happened while I merged into an adult, and Matt Ryan is arguably the best quarterback in franchise history. And darn it, we had two 13-win seasons that ended in the first two rounds of the playoffs. It hurts. It really hurts.
At least you guys are funny in large part, you know. That at least you've got that, because you could be hurt and not funny, and then just be what fan base is hurt but not funny? Dolphins fans, maybe?
New York.
Cleveland is pretty
Cleveland
good. New York is good. New York is sad, but like really, really mad about it. New York's not sad. New York is angry.
Yeah, fair.
That's the only thing. That's a good nominee though.
Minnesota.
I think they're despondent, specifically Vikings fans.
Yeah.
I think Kirk Cousins can only be your quarterback for so long before you just have to accept that things have gone poorly for you. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about that I didn't intend on making you miserable with was we just played, I don't know if you heard like any of the clips of Draymond Green and anything from Kendrick Perkins and all of that being very dramatic. You've got Skip Bayless trying to fight Russell Westbrook as far as I can tell, which would, you know, be great for Skip, I'm sure. We would continue talking about him in even more places. But I'm interested in your view of media right now when you have people saying things like old media and new media, but like whenever I listen to Draymond, I sort of just hear a dude doing a podcast over Zoom. Like I don't know that that's the place that it's intriguing to me. I don't know what the next evolution is or who's going to take us there, but I think we're in a very interesting kind of volatile space and all of that, and I was just sort of curious how you've absorbed it all.
I think we're still kind of feeling the ripple effects of the player empowerment movement, especially in the NBA specifically. When these players are saying new media, Patrick Beverley ran around with that for a little while, and now Draymond has kind of picked it up and waved it around as his flag. I don't see anything necessarily quote-unquote new with what they're doing. It's not an innovative podcast that you've never heard before, or it's not anything that's groundbreaking in how the information is being displayed. It's who you're hearing it from specifically. It's no longer the players having to talk to an old white guy who then interprets what they say to say it back out to the rest of us. Draymond Green can hop on his phone right after the NBA Finals and say, you know what, I got some things to say. And by the essence of the word new, I guess that is necessarily quote-unquote new, but there still is a role for media members, I won't say the J word, but media members to still interpret what is important and what is newsworthy. I think players are so excited to be able to have the power and the control once again, and rightfully so, because there's a lot of bad journalism out here. There's a lot of bad media members out here, and there's still a big disconnect. I tweeted this out yesterday in regarding to the Sha'Carri Richardson story and her message to media members at some of the track races. I think they feel very hurt. I think they feel like their words have been misconstrued 9 times out of 10, and I'm sure the pandemic has taken a toll on that because we're all talking behind screens, and the relationships part of the business has really devolved away. I think it's interesting to let Draymond and these guys run around and do that kind of thing. A lot of it is off-season chatter, and, of course, a lot of it is generating information online, but we're kind of in a transitionary period. I still think all the roles are important, but they'll definitely look different 5 or 10 years, heck, maybe even next year.
Making it a ripple effect from the player empowerment conversation, I think is super interesting because I think that we have crossed the Rubicon on player empowerment and I'm going specifically NBA and specifically within like the roster building aspect. I think we've found a point where letting players build the roster stops making sense when James Harden can't find a team that he likes, or Kyrie is going to keep you guessing, or maybe LeBron and Kevin Durant are the best basketball players in the world, but maybe they're not the best general managers in the world. Like I think that we were in a place for a very long time where players had none of their power. Now that they have it, could there be something kind of parallel there between, like you say, media members who are going to help players find out what's interesting and newsworthy and noteworthy, along with general managers still being allowed to generally manage, so players aren't also doing that? I don't know. To me, it seems like maybe there could be a pendulum sort of swinging there, where right now we're over on one edge of it, and then somewhere back towards the middle, maybe there's a medium to find, both in terms of players dictating what their professional life is going to look like and dictating their access. 'Cause I think the filter, the lack of forcing an old white guy to interpret everything, getting that out of the picture, I think makes a lot of sense. But then I don't know if I'm going to listen to episode 2 of Tyreek Hill's podcast because I'm just not sure if I know that he knows what's interesting.
I can't believe Rick Ross is not going to get you to tune into the It Needed to Be Said podcast.
Me either.
I thought you were the fan of The Biggest Boss.
No, that honestly is the exact reason that me never having listened to the second episode of that podcast, really, like I'm taking note of that for myself, because if Rick Ross was on a podcast with literally anybody who I thought would be like just do good content with him, I would be there in a heartbeat.
You're absolutely right about this. Like, there is a middle ground in this entire thing. And that's kind of what happens when you've been starved for power, when you've been starved for what they feel like is their voice in the whole media game.
Yeah.
You're going to go to the complete other side of the spectrum and jump completely in and do it all yourself. It kind of reminds me of the NIL thing that we're seeing in college football, right?
Yeah.
Players were never able to get paid, or they were getting paid under the table, quote unquote, but it wasn't allowed to happen. And then all of a sudden the floodgates open up, and now you can do pretty much everything under the sun. I feel like in that situation, and similarly in this situation, there's going to be kind of a deviation back to the median as far as what media looks like, sports media looks like, and the players' involvement in that. Going forward. But I'm happy to have them in here. It gives me no more joy than imagining Draymond Green slumped over his laptop trying to edit clips together on Final Cut Pro after winning an NBA championship, and it's just not splicing correctly, because I've been through that situation so many times, and he's feeling my pain. It's great.
You got Draymond on a MacBook just yelling to no one, the audio's not syncing up. I think that...
I mean, he's having mic clip issues. Yeah. Welcome to our world, Draymond. Welcome to our world.
That might be the real end point of this, is that you give enough players enough of all of that, and eventually they're going to taste it and spit it right back out at us and say, no, never mind. I'm you know what? I was wrong. I didn't actually want all this.
They're like, what, journalists in small markets are making how much? Oh, wait a minute, old media. Come back, please.
Yeah, you know, I don't know how many Squarespace ads Draymond's going to do before it really makes an impact on his annual salary, but I feel like it's going to be a lot.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't have anything else on that. Has any of the Kyrie KD stuff caught your interest at all? Did you buy into any of the drama today of Brian Windhorst saying that the Nets would rather lose them both than return to the status quo like 3 hours before Kyrie opted back in?
I mean, it just happened so fast, and Kyrie is one of the guys that I have had to train myself not to eye roll anytime there's a little bit of information, because he just has this complex that continues to go and go. And I almost wonder if the Nets, because the report earlier in the day was, oh, well, the Nets are prepared to lose both of them. and then Kyrie opts back in, and I'm like, well, are they happy to have him back in? Because it wasn't really a situation that was fruitful for anyone involved last year. And now Ben Simmons is in the mix. It seems like a mess. Brooklyn was a title favorite at one point in time, but I have a hard time believing Steve Nash encourages any sort of motivation amongst that group after what they did to him last year and then talked around him going into the offseason. The collection of talent by itself, yes, amazing, but you got to hit the rubber. The rubber's got to hit the road at a certain point, and for Brooklyn, it never really materialized.
If that whole crew stays together and you get a full season of by full season, I mean they're on the roster. You get Kyrie and Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant so shortly after they ship off Harden, obviously getting Ben Simmons back. What do you think that team ultimately does? Like, what would you, if you had to bet money on what the outcome would be of those three as your centerpiece?
I mean, you would argue 50 wins at least, right? And you go from there, but how many games are you getting out of Kyrie? And then I would also say the East has gotten better.
Yeah.
Miami should be healthy with Kyrie out there. I mean, Milwaukee's always in the picture. I'm going to include my Atlanta Hawks in this conversation, but let's just breeze past them very quickly while they figure out what they want to do.
Sure.
The East has gotten better, Josh. And Brooklyn, to me, has just sat here and spun their top and spun their wheels, and we'll see. They're definitely a soap opera, and I think that's what everybody is most distracted by. You can't look away from the car wreck, right? And it's fun, and Kyrie's a talkative guy, and I'm going to have so much fun with the memes of people who are different lead us into tomorrow. I mean, that is just going to be Instagram captions for weeks, let me tell you. But as far as an actual title favorite, I would like to see them all play 82 and then go from there.
I just saw, I totally had missed this, even though we were just talking about Tyreek Hill's podcast, that his next guest is going to be Tua Tagovailoa. I have one question for you. Do you think at any point in the entirety of the podcast, Tyreek Hill will say the word Tagovailoa?
Absolutely not. He has not even attempted it. It's Tua T, and his name is Tua T completely. Like, that is his full name.
Yes.
To Tyreek Hill. It's Tua T.
It's just so funny. He didn't even type it in this tweet. Is exclusive episode featuring at Miami Dolphins QB1 at Tua, a.k.a. Tua T. Which, look, as far as nicknames go, that's not bad. But it's just he's going to avoid it like a dangerous landmine. I just think that's wonderful. It just makes me happy.
I hope they understand the rigors of podcasting now that he's truly in it, right? Like, these first couple episodes. Yes. He's got Rick Ross. He's got Tua T. Try a whole year, Tyree. Edit that whole thing up. Let's get it going. Try a whole year of podcasting.
We got Drew Rosenhaus, Rick Ross, Tua T. Episode 4 guest prediction. I'm going to go... It's going to drop hard at 4. That's my prediction, is that episode 4 is going to be a significant, precipitous drop, because I think Rick Ross is your big guest to get. Lebitard said that he was going to do a home and home, but he said that he told Tyreek and his people or whatever that he was going to ask him questions about like some of the stuff in college and all of that, and he just never heard back again.
I'm actually kind of shocked that he went with a once a week or bi-weekly release point. Like, that seems a little ambitious. Usually when the big guys come in, like Michelle Obama released 6 episodes of her podcast and was like, all right, y'all have fun. Yeah. Enjoy those releases. Like, once every 2 weeks, that's a lot for an active player.
I think he's going to see some guest issues that I wonder. I would like to just continue to track the progress of it needed to be said, which I would like for that to be interesting. I just need there to be something that did in fact need to be said.
I think it's going to be with current or former business partner of the Miami Dolphins, Jimmy Buffett.
Wow, I would listen to that. I would. I would listen to Tyreek Hill interview Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett at one point signed a business joined the Dolphins in a business role. That the role was business role. That was the official title. I don't know if it's still a business role with the Dolphins, but
I don't. I would love to know more. I guess that's pretty much all I could argue. You a big Jimmy Buffett guy, Aaron?
I really want Luther Campbell, or like if we're doing Miami Tyreek Hill podcast, like let's just go all the way Playboy Mansion. Let's do the thing, right? This has got to end in a league suspension. That's the only way that
Mark Anthony is an owner. J-Lo, get some of the remember what was it like 5 years ago? They announced like 20 celebrity minority owners for the team.
Yeah,
let's just get all those people.
That's good. Hey, you know what? Tyreek Hill, get in touch with Stephen Ross, get him on, ask him about Brian Flores, ask about Tom Brady. Really, what if Tyreek Hill put on his big J journalism hat and just totally broke open the lawsuit and all of that there?
Now that's new media.
That would be new.
Now we're talking.
Cooking with gas. I think we should do that. All right, let's get a hold of Tyreek Hill's people. Last thing that I can think of that I've got on my just sort of things that Aaron might want to talk about, or at least things that Aaron might know about, that we haven't talked about here yet, is the NBA draft coming and going. Obviously, there weren't, a tremendous number of local picks, but you get two, both in the first round. Ochai Agbaji to the Cavs, and then Christian Brown to the Nuggets. Rudy's a Nuggets fan, so that's obnoxious, but the fit for him seems absolutely perfect. I hope he's able to just stay out there for the duration of his rookie contract and just become whatever he can be on that team. But did you have any strong feelings either way on either the story of each of those guys or the fit where they're going to be now at the next level?
We talked about this ad nauseum on Sunday Sound Off, so I appreciate you watching that every week on KSHB 41.
You know I only watch when I'm on.
I think the story's already written for these guys. Does it really matter what Ochai Agbaji or Christian Brown do at the next level? I think Agbaji, obviously the expectations are a little bit higher. He's got the frame, but could still use a little bit of work as far as shooting. But Brown and Agbaji wrote their story in what they did in March and April. As far as a KU fan of this region is concerned, I don't think your opinion changed by anything that they do at the next level. Now, Brown obviously ends up in a great situation. This is a team that has high expectations, and with Jamal Murray in that mix, I would consider them a threat in the West. But who knows, right? It's frame, it's potential, it's what he did at the national championship game and all that good stuff. But I don't really put too much stock into what they do in the NBA. The story's already written.
I wanted to get here one thing now from Matt Derrick, who joined us earlier in the show. I did tweet out, I think confusingly, I'm not sure if this poll result so far is going to give us anything, but at the beginning of the segment I tweeted out, poll, can you twiddle anything other than your thumbs, yes or no? 53% of the audience so far has said yes, you can twiddle things other than your thumbs. Matt says it's a small list, a bit like how there are only about 3 things you can do profusely: sweat, bleed, and apologize.
I thought you could twiddle wood, but I guess that's whittle.
Yeah. I think you can whittle wood, and you can. Matt needs to specify what he believes you can twiddle. The tone of the replies makes me think that twiddling wood is something that one of the responses would have been, but not have meant the way that you did. And I don't know if that's what that means. I think we're safe. I think the only thing you can twiddle is your thumbs. I'm voting no on this, on my own poll question. I just decided this time I was going to be quiet until you responded for any of it, and then you called my bluff, Aaron.
You're so good at radio, Brisco. I see what's going on here.
It's a trick they say in conversations. You just... When the other person finishes talking, you just pause for like 3 or 4 seconds, and then the other person gets uncomfortable, and then they start talking.
That actually is something they teach us in J school. He's not even joking. Like, that's the actual trick.
And it worked that time. Thanks, Aaron.
Oh.
Anything on 41 this week people should know about?
Here it goes again. You know what? Some of us have a show to put together today, Brisco.
You're on a trip. You're out for the rest. Is there anything you need to plug, or are you good? Is your plug for the rest of the week? Don't tweet me.
KSHB 41 here in about 45 minutes or so. I'll see you then.
Turn on your TV. Put it on channel 41.
Love it.
Got you again. Let's go. Thank you, Aaron.
Oh, God. Goodbye.
Why did I make this so hostile? Beginning and end. I started it with accidentally bringing up horrible Falcons memories and ended it with me trying to bait him into continuing to talk.
It's been a while since you've done a radio show.
That's true.
It's been about a week.
You can follow Aaron on Twitter, but by the sounds of it, I mean, really, what's the point? You know, he's about to go on his little hiatus. Just tweet him and give him a 4-second pause. I don't know. You follow him on Twitter at Aaron Ladd 0. You can watch it. Certainly not a 0 on TV. More like a 10 on 41. That's too many numbers. Check out his sportscast coming up on 41 here in a little while. KSHB 41. Oh, so many good friends over there. And of course, Sunday Sound Off. I only think it's good when I'm on it, but it does happen other Sundays too, and so it'll be there for you if you really, really get desperate.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just... You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
One other thing that happened that I think is great. I tweeted during the game, Marcus Peters isn't worth it and Tyreek Hill is the number one receiver, and I've never actually watched a football game as a tweet. Gibby responded on Twitter, "Seeing your sarcasm and retweets reminds me why I quit following. Just enjoy the ride without stirring up bleep."
I say this, and I tweeted this back to Gibby, with genuinely no spite whatsoever. But if you don't like sarcastic Chiefs tweets, you probably have found the wrong Twitter account.
With Joshua Brisco.
That's my whole brand! Stirring up bleep is my favorite!
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It's late into the evening. The Royals are going to lose the Rangers. Don't even sweat it. But I wanted to at least briefly give you the most fun blurb of the day in Kansas City sports news at the very least, because the Royals did trade away Carlos Santana, got a little bit in return, and got anything in return for Carlos Santana. That's a good place to start. Rudy, you're looking at the screen like maybe I told you that this audio is in the wrong spot. There was a different copy of it in Soren's folder. You can grab it's the Vinnie Pasquantino one in there. I thought I saved it differently, renamed it differently. I might have cut a little. That's fine. We can play the version they played in the program.
You saved it into the programs folder because there are two Vinny clips. So I'm betting that's what happened.
I didn't save it over their original one.
It's missing the number.
Yeah, so it's just in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happens.
I'm
done. Hey, the other day Curtis was trying to find audio that I had, Chiefs audio from the day before. I had used it for Crunch Time. I thought I had copied and pasted it into the Crunch Time folder. I cut and pasted it into the Crunch Time folder, so all their audio was gone.
Oh, my goodness.
Curtis was like, what happened? And then I realized, oh, yeah.
And Curtis ripped you a new one then probably, right?
Boy.
People don't understand how mean of a person Curtis Siebold is.
I'll tell you what. Made it to that tree. He threw me, but made it to the tree. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the scene when the scenes where Jazzy Jeff just gets thrown out of the house. That's what it was. But to a tree.
The only reason I don't believe that story is because these doors explicitly do not open right now.
Well, yeah, but this was last week.
Oh, okay.
They opened last week, theoretically.
Did Curtis get so mad that the thing happened where all of his teeth turn into werewolf teeth? Like he gets big fangs?
Yes. Yeah. And the hair grows on the top of his head?
Yeah. If I come in here tomorrow and I just find you unconscious with a werewolf-sized bite out of your neck or something, I'm not going to defend you in court, No, I'm going to play this audio back and say, look, he knew the risks of working with a monster like Curtis. Boy, I think. Rudy, can you hit the filter? There's a button on the board. There's a button on the board. I don't know if you knew about this. It's a secret button. It's actually under the board. Can you lift up the board and you hit the secret button under the board? There's actually one of these for every single person at the station, but it's the button that will make only Curtis not able to hear the next couple seconds of audio.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah, just right. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Good. Okay, so Curtis can't. Everyone can hear this except for Curtis. Yes, it's soft whisper. Just because I don't know that every single person in our current listening audience knows exactly the inner workings of Curtis or just sort of the general bits that we do. And it would just really ruin my day if anybody did live the rest of their life thinking that Curtis was a real mean jerk, because he's one of the nicest people that I've ever known, I think. Like Mount Rushmore contender. I don't know. I'd hate to carve his face into stone before I really lock that down. I don't know. I might have met like a nun once as a child who'd like say, I don't know, I need to do some thinking. So Curtis can never hear this, but Curtis is not actually a mean werewolf who has threatened Rudy on multiple occasions. That was a bit. You have that Vinnie Pasquantino audio?
I do. He's going to wear number 9, by the way. It's just pop.
I like that.
Courtesy of a retweet from Curtis Siebold. Vinnie Pasquantino will wear number 9, last worn by Royals legend, first baseman, outfielder, Ryan McBroom.
Wow. I could have sat here for a long time before I would have finished that sentence for you. I was trying. Single digits for all the young guys, huh?
Yeah.
Bobby Witt, MJ Melendez, and Vinnie Pasquantino all get single digits.
Yeah.
Good. That's great. That's great for the Royals aesthetic.
Nick Prado wears when it comes up.
Don't you bleep this up. He's double digits in Omaha, right?
I was thinking 13.
Well, we're gonna probably get to this. We'll get to this Vinnie Pasquantino audio tomorrow that I just told you we'd get to today.
We got time. You can play real fast.
No, Prado has worn 88.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which would be pretty cool.
Well, you know what 88 is?
I also see him in 13.
88 is made of 2 single-digit numbers. Just like every number.
Every 2-digit number is made up of 2 one-digit numbers. I think that's just sort of factually the case.
13 is good. 88 is good. I've always liked 25. Hosmer made 35 work for a first baseman. I think you want single digits or in the teens. 19, not a good baseball number, right? 19's not good. I think 15 is the cap on baseball numbers. Until you get up to 23, 24, 25, maybe. I'll give you those 3. Anyway. Vinnie Pasquantino got called up today.
I got the audio. We got time.
Did you delete the one in Petro's folder like I asked you to?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you delete the entire contents of their show's folder?
Yes. The folder itself is gone.
Good. Have you gone to the podcast page and deleted the entire archives?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then we're good.
The feed is done.
Have you cut the brakes on Curtis's car so he can't chase you down when he finds out what you've done?
Well, I would argue if I cut the brakes of this car, he can chase me down. He literally cannot stop chasing me down.
Which is how he already is. He's like a dog with a bone. Well, the good news is if he was listening, he probably would have texted one of us by now. So I think we're safe.
I think we're good.
Here's the story of how Vinnie Pasquantino found out he was getting the call up to the big leagues.
I got told this morning, and I was in the hallway taking out some trash when I got told, which was pretty interesting. So my manager in AAA, Scott Thorman, he had texted me this morning. That's when I kind of knew something might be up a little bit because him and I don't normally text that often, especially on an off day. So he's kind of asking where I was, basically. Without asking me where I was, he asked me where I was. And so when that text kind of came through, it was like, all right, my heart's beating a little bit faster, so I started to become productive instead of just sit in my chair and wait until we were leaving for St. Paul. So I got up, started cleaning a little bit. I took out the trash, and if you ask my roommate, Clay Dungan, it was the first time I had taken the trash out all year. He normally handled the trash taking away. And as I'm in the hallway, Thor, Tommy Shields, our bench coach, and Ryan Powers, our assistant hitting coach, were also walking down the hallway, and that's when I knew something was up. So Thor kind of sees me and asks what's going on. I'm taking out the trash. I'm just
like
getting
always,
ready.
right?
And so you're going to need to drop those bags real quick. And he said, you're going to the big leagues. And I lost all feeling in my body, which was an interesting experience to say the least. And, then we had to figure some things out, and I'm here now, and I couldn't be more thrilled.
I mean, just what a tremendously charming story. A storybook type of stuff of I was taking out the trash because I got the feeling that maybe something was happening, and I got this sort of just basic need to clean up my living space. I don't usually take out the trash. Usually I make my roommate do that. But you knew something was coming. You get the call up. All of a sudden, you're headed to the big leagues. So just a great story. And also, we don't always get great inside looks into just the personality of especially these players being as young as they are, the young guys getting called up for the first time. So I think that the humanity stories on all of that are always a nice way to be introduced to somebody that you hope, if things go well, you're going to be watching for the next decade here in Kansas City, even if things go just okay several years. And I think you'll maybe I at least will remember, hey, the story of Vinnie Pasquantino getting called up to the big leagues, he was taking out the trash for once. So I don't know if the Royals will win a ring while he is in Kansas City or not, but I do know that he is our recipient for the day of Ruback Fine Jewelry's Who Gets the Ring. I love Ruback Fine Jewelry. I've talked about them so many times on this show, which I count to be a blessing because they have given me daily moments of, man, Ruback did a great job, because that's where I went to get fiancée Renee's engagement ring. She was involved in the process also. We went in with our various ideas and visions, and then we talked to Hal, who has decades of experience in the jewelry business. He's got also like connections with people to try to make things happen for you. He was an invaluable resource to us getting all of that done, and now it all came to life in a way that, to be honest, like, it is legitimately cooler, more personal, also fully custom, all things that it exceeded my grandest hopes for the engagement ring process and for the final result as well. In fact, I'm gonna save a little extra Easter egg maybe for a little later on. I don't want to blow up anybody's spot, but I do know that many of you have heard the Ruback reads and all of that, and have taken the advice that I've been able to give. I told you also I went to them off of a recommendation from Kent Swanson. They did not hop on as a sponsor and say, do you want to hop on and get this ring? I went there first, went through that experience. It was such a great experience that we were able to talk to them and say, hey, I'd love to tell more people about that here on the show. And we've now been able to do that for a while. So I couldn't be happier with Ruback, the process at the time, the end result. If you are nervous about the process, or if you're excited about the process and you want somebody to just be excited with you who's going to lead you in the right direction, that's Hal, and that is at Ruback. So if you want to book an appointment there, you can do that at ruback.co. That's ruback.co. Two things I say almost every time I talk about Ruback, but they're important to me. One is that they've been in this community for 100 years. That they are part of Kansas City's fabric in that way, and I think that's really meaningful. And the other thing is something that I just wish someone would have told me before I started the process, which eventually Ruback did. But I did not ever think about this. You probably can work your way to a custom ring if that's what you want to do, because a custom ring means a custom budget. I just never thought about that. I just thought, oh, custom anything means that's for somebody else. But at Ruback, you can just go to Hal and say, here's what I like, here's what I think my significant other likes, or maybe here's what we both like, here's where I'm at budget-wise, what can we do? And whatever it is, whatever you're looking for, whatever your budget is, Hal's going to help you get the absolute most bang for your buck and a final product that you're absolutely going to love. So go to Ruback Fine Jewelry, ruback.co. Tell them Almost Entirely Sports sent you. You don't have to. It just feels like a thing to say. And if you do go there, if Vinnie Pasquantino gets a ring with a Royals logo on it or a beautiful piece from Ruback, either way, that makes you a winner.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Oh, fair.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I've got a couple different directions that I could take us here at the very end of the show tonight. How long are we going to have here, Rudy? You've literally just told me, I think, and I wasn't listening apparently. Now Rudy is yawning. This is the right energy to wrap up the show with. No, we've nailed it. Don't even apologize. We've nailed it.
We are currently, I think, at 4.5 minutes.
Okay.
Right?
I have a question that I asked myself earlier that I also asked Rudy that I'm also going to ask the audience. Did I message Rudy earlier today? Now, you, the audience, would have... I would hope no way of knowing. And the truth is, of course, yes, I did message Rudy at some point earlier today.
Many times.
But we had, messaged back and forth about a variety of things. And at one point, I was like, all right, I'm going to be at work at this time. We got Matt Derrick at 8, Aaron Ladd at 9. And I think maybe I even might have mentioned the Google Doc or whatever. But I think I sent you that earlier in the day. But I knew what I was sending you was when I was going to get here, Matt at 8, Aaron at 9. But like 30 or 45 minutes after that, I got a message back from Rudy. It says, hey, what's the guest plan tonight? I imagine Matt at 8. I go, did I not actually send you that message? What happened here? And I don't think it was a lost to time thing. I have no evidence on my side that I even attempted to send it and it crashed or whatever. I have my theory now, but it also begs a question that I'm going to ask of you, Rudy, and then hopefully anyone who's still listening to the show at the end of hour 3, which you are the ride or dies, and we love you. I think that my best explanation is that I end up, and this might explain a lot, I don't know even if this is unique or not. I have a pretty active, verbose internal monologue that I will think, quote unquote, out loud thoughts or full sentences or things that I want to say or things I should tell Renee this whenever I go back upstairs, whatever. And maybe I go upstairs and then 10 minutes later I go, did I ever actually tell her that? Or did I just think of exactly what I was going to say? Not to memorize it, but just I need to tell Renee that the washing machine's a little louder because this part here is making a kind of a jerky noise and all of that. And then 20 minutes later I might go, did I ever actually tell Renee about the washing machine? I think that's what happened today, but I know that Renee has basically figured out that she has virtually no, internal vocal monologue, and so I know that there's at least some range of options there, and now I really don't know if she's weird or if I'm weird, if we're both weird. I'm guessing we're both weird.
And we're all a little weird.
We're all a little weird.
I would say whatever that spectrum looks like, I'm on the pretty far end of has a lot of vocal dialogue inside of their head.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Conversations. I play out conversations in my head. When I know I'm going to be talking to somebody about something, I will just naturally play out a conversation in my head without even trying to.
This is great. How much time do we have now?
We have 2.5 minutes.
Do you want to know what it felt like to be in the process of dying for me?
Oh, goodness.
The last thing that I remember, almost a year ago, I didn't know I had diabetes. I have diabetes. I didn't know, and I was very sick, and I almost died. One of the last things I remember is laying on the floor in the bathroom, fetal position, pain. I didn't know what was going on. And I don't remember the content at all, but it was like my brain was AI generating a podcast. I stone cold serious about this. No bits here. What I remember, and I remember it not really making sense, but I listened to a ton of podcasts. That might be part of it. I've been listening to podcasts. I have had voices not in my head, but in my ear.
Quite literally
since I was 13, constantly. And maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But I was decomposing. And somewhere in my brain, my narrative theory is it was he'd probably like to be listening to a podcast now. This would probably be soothing. I listen to podcasts when I'm stressed. I listen to podcasts when I'm just living my life. I don't know. But it was very distinctly, and it wasn't like it was playing. I knew that it was internal. But it was I was carrying out two sides of some internal podcast. I don't know if I've told that story on the air before, but that was one of the last. That is the last thing I remember before I sat in the bathtub, which is where Renee eventually got me to get up out of. I don't remember anything after that.
Yeah,
very little after that.
I almost always have like some sort of inner dialogue when I need to tell somebody anything.
And sometimes I think that's probably like, I'm really thinking about it right now. So as you were giving your answer a second ago, I was thinking about what my response was going to be. And I don't think maybe that's why we talk over each other on this show and we interrupt each other too much. Is because
we're just not good at this job. Who could say?
It's because someone else is talking. You're like, I've got my idea fully formed. Hey, I fully formed my idea. I'm ready to say it now. I don't care that you're not done yet. I have an idea.
I actually do think that makes a lot of sense to something I've never really thought about. It checks out though. That is
my offering in the serious, but not like dark. I mean, my last story was dark. But in the like, hey everybody, here's your homework for the week. Think about your internal monologue for like 1 week and report back and let me know how it went. I just kind of want to know where more people are at on that one. We got shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. Plenty of AES for your internal monologue. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, Mom.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Spring has arrived. The sun and warmth might mean more time on the golf course, bike trails, pickleball courts, or just the backyard. You should do your body a favor and visit the highly skilled practitioners at Stretch Zone. Stretch Zone is the leader in practitioner-assisted stretching and will help your muscle flexibility and decrease joint stiffness. We all need to focus on our flexibility and mobility. Let Stretch Zone help you get started. Check out their 4 locations, soon to be 5, in the KC area at stretchzone.com.
WHB, the station that brought the Beatles to Kansas City, that created Top 40 Radio, and became America's largest all-sports radio station.
Inside the 10, all the way home.
We'll celebrate 100 years this summer with a celebration of sports, entertainment, and broadcasting. Stay tuned for a big announcement about our celebration of 100 years of WHB.
Attention everyone, are you ready for the summer heat? Let ProBuilt Pool and Patio get you started on your summer prep. As the largest provider of fiberglass swimming pools, we have the biggest selection and offer the fastest installation times. At ProBuilt Pool and Patio, we proudly stand behind every home we serve. We make dreams come true and deliver them right to your backyard. The best time to get a pool is right now. Call today for your free quote. ProBuilt Pool and Patio, 816-786-3893.
For NFL action, there's only one station to follow all season long. Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sports Radio 810 is the home of NFL Sundays, Thursday, Sunday, and Monday Night Football. And Sports Radio 810 is your home for the NFL playoffs. Follow the NFL on Kansas City's hometown radio station, Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Whether you're looking for energy savings or updating your home office or man cave, One Stop Decorating is the place for beautiful energy-efficient window coverings. One Stop Decorating offers free in-home or virtual consultations, or you can come into one of their 3 beautiful showrooms to see all the window coverings in their Hunter Douglas galleries. Ask about smart shades that can be controlled by Google, Alexa, and HomeKit. 913-270-0408, 913-270-0408, or onestopdecorating.com. Your home, your windows, your style.
The nominations are in. Now is the time for you to vote for Kansas City's most outstanding players and coaches. ESPN and Sports Radio 810 WHB have partnered once again to award our hometown stars with honorary SB awards. We've taken hundreds of nominations in 16 categories, and the finalists have all been chosen. Go to 810WHB.com to vote for your favorite clutch performance and so much more. Cast your votes today at 810WHB.com.
You're listening to the most powerful sports station in the country. Sports Radio 810, WHB Kansas City. The